Opinions expressed by the guests, listeners, and hosts of any program on WURD Radio do not necessarily reflect those of ownership, management, or advertisers of this station. Reality Check
with Charles Ellison
right now on WURD Radio
and WURDradio.com.
Requires that the following announcement be made at the beginning of every remote council session. Due to the current public health emergency, City Council is currently meeting remotely. We are using Microsoft Teams to make this remote meeting possible. Instructions for how the public may view the meeting and offer public comment are included in the stated meeting notice that was published in the Daily News, Enquirer, and Legal Intelligencer prior to the meeting, and can also be found on phlcouncil.com. I now note that the hour has come. The clerk will please call the roll to take attendance, and members, just please remember to say a couple of words to make sure that your photo is displayed. Mr. Decker, please proceed.
Councilwoman Bass.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you to everyone for being here and caring about the people's business. Thank you.
Good morning.
Councilwoman Brooks.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues.
Good morning.
Councilman Dom.
Morning, Council President and colleagues and the listening public.
Good morning.
Councilwoman Gauthier.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, everyone. Happy to be here today.
Good morning.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues.
Good morning.
Councilman Green.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, public. Good to be here for another session of City Council.
Good morning.
Councilwoman Gim.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues.
Good morning.
Councilman Heenan.
Councilman Heenan is having technical difficulties. It's noted in the chat box. We can come back to him.
Councilman Johnson.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. Still screaming justice for Breonna Taylor.
Good morning, Councilman.
Councilman Jones.
Good morning, Mr. President. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, viewing public.
Good morning.
Councilman O.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues.
Morning.
Councilman O'Neill. Councilwoman Parker.
Good morning, Mr. President. Good morning, colleagues. Present.
Councilwoman.
Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez.
Buenos dias to my colleagues. Thank you.
Buenos dias.
Councilman Squilla.
Good morning, Mr. President. Good morning, colleagues.
Good morning.
Councilman Thomas.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. Happy to be here this morning.
Good morning, Councilman.
Council President Clark.
Great. Good morning. Thank you. We've established a quorum and will now come to order. Despite the great need, there will be no invocation today. We will, however, observe a very brief moment of silent prayer for our city, its leaders, and citizens during the current public health crisis. We will now observe a brief moment of silence. Thank you very much. Our next order of business is the approval of the journal of the meeting of Thursday, October 1, 2020, and the chair recognizes Councilman Squilla.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the approval of the journal for Thursday, October 1st, 2020.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly approved. At the meeting of October 1st, 2020, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Ayes have it, and that journal is approved. And our next order of business is request for leave of absence. And the chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the members of council, there are no requests for leaves of absence today.
Thank you, the chair. Thanks to Councilwoman. Our next order of business is communications. And Mr. Decker, would you please read the messages from the mayor and any other communications that you may have in your possession?
To the President and members of the Council of the City of Philadelphia, I respectfully request and submit for the consideration of your honorable body a resolution authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority deeds conveying fee simple title to certain city-owned lots and pieces of ground with the buildings and improvements thereon situated in the 2nd Councilmanic District of the City of Philadelphia. And a resolution approving the appointment of Ismail Shahid as a member of the Board of Commissioners of the Philadelphia Housing Authority. And an ordinance amending Section 2 of an ordinance, Bill number 180560, approved July 10, 2018, entitled, an ordinance authorizing the revision of lines and grades in a portion of City Plan number 250 by striking from the City Plan and vacating the legally open portion of Montour Street from Adams Avenue to Falkright Street, by extending the period for compliance with the terms and conditions stated therein, and an ordinance authorizing the revision of lines and grades in a portion of City Plan number 299 by striking from the City Plan Parker Avenue from a point approximately 156 feet southwest of Matthias Street to its terminus southwestwardly therefrom, and reserving and placing on the City Plan a right-of-way for various utility purposes within a portion of Parker Avenue being stricken, and authorizing acceptance of the grant to the city of the said right-of-way, all under certain terms and conditions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Decker. And our next order of business is the introduction of bills and resolutions. And by way of a reminder, we are asking that all resolutions, including privilege resolutions, be placed on the final passes calendar for the next session of council unless they are being referred to committee. In our current remote environment, this procedure will provide an appropriate opportunity for public comment. And I just want to thank you very much in advance for your cooperation. Mr. Decker, would you please read the titles of the legislation that is being offered today by the members?
Councilwoman Parker offers one bill entitled an ordinance amending Section 2 of an ordinance, Bill number 180560, approved July 10, 2018, entitled, an ordinance authorizing the revision of lines and grades on a portion of City Plan number 250 by striking from the City Plan and vacating the legally open portion of Montour Street from Adams Avenue to Falkright Street, by extending the period for compliance with the terms and conditions stated therein.
Heard the committee.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson offers one resolution entitled a resolution authorizing City Council's Committee of the Whole to hold all hearings required pursuant to Bill number 200364A, which established a requirement that the council hold hearings in connection with anticipated collective bargaining agreements between the city and police employees and the Philadelphia Police Department, represented by the Fraternal Order of Police.
Heard the committee.
That's authorizing a hearing, Mr. President.
Oh, okay. Today's calendar. Sorry.
Councilwoman Gim offers one bill entitled an ordinance amending Title 10 of the Philadelphia Code to create a new Chapter 10-2500 entitled Less Lethal Devices to regulate the use of less lethal devices in specific situations.
Thank you. Councilwoman, did you want to be recognized at this point?
Yes, please.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Councilwoman Gim.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. First of all, I would like to thank all my colleagues, especially those on the Public Safety Committee, 8 of us are submitting a bill that would require the police department to make permanent its current moratorium on the use of tear gas, rubber bullets, and less lethal munitions in clearly First Amendment related activities. Last night, we had a chance with our Public Safety Committee and many others. Thank you, Councilmember Gilmore Richardson, and others for joining us, to hear from residents who were impacted by the events of May and June in the aftermath of the killing of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and many others. We heard 3 hours of testimony of people who talked about how they took to the streets to demand justice, to talk for, to see a better tomorrow. And they were met with a show of force that had not been deployed on such a scale in our city in decades. Militarized vehicles rolled down 52nd Street. Tear gas, pepper spray, acrid chemicals filled the air. Individuals held up sizable tear gas canisters that had been shot at them. Without warning, rubber bullets and other objects tore through West Philadelphia and on I-676, forcing families to evacuate and leaving many with no place to retreat. The targeting was clear. It was indiscriminate. It was young people. It was journalists. It was observers, demonstrators, longtime residents, and those calling out for assistance. Many of us had witnessed videos and maybe social media posts that documented the chaos and terror, but few of us on the ground had heard directly from the people who experienced it. Last night, we had a chance to hear from many of those people, and I think that their stories were loud and clear. I want to express my gratitude to those who shared. I know they did so from a place of anger that was palpable, and let's be honest, justified. But they also did it with an urgent call for us to change. And the courageous words of ordinary Philadelphians demand more of us. The retelling and reliving of those stories was extremely hard. And I firmly want to reiterate again before our full city council that every single person who stepped forward last night or who submitted their written testimonies and took the time to talk with us, engaged with council over the last few months, did the city and their communities a profound public service. There are multiple investigations that are going on. We are not pretending to do that. City Council wanted to hold space to recognize that the voices of our residents have to guide the work that we do, and that their courage calls us to task to build a better Philadelphia. So I'm proud to, along with my colleagues and especially our Public Safety Chairman, Councilmember Jones, to submit this bill. I know it will go through a rigorous review. And I know that we face difficult times ahead, including the fact that in the next couple of weeks, we also will continue over the next couple of weeks and months, we will continue to be tested about what our commitment to civil liberties are, what First Amendment freedoms are, and how we intend to fully uphold the constitutional right to voting, to walk freely through our city, to make sure that we are safe in our communities as well. I hope that this bill will be part of that conversation. So thank you.
Thank you. Refer to committee.
Councilman Jones offers one bill entitled an ordinance authorizing the revision of lines and grades in a portion of City Plan number 299 by striking from the city plan Parker Avenue from a point approximately 156 feet southwest of Matthias Street to its terminus southwestwardly therefrom, and reserving and placing on the city plan a right of way being stricken. Now, acceptance of the grant to the city of the said right of way.
Heard the committee.
Councilman Johnson offers 4 bills and 1 resolution. On behalf of Council President, Councilman Johnson offers an ordinance authorizing transfers and appropriations for fiscal year 2021 from the general fund, the council, to the general fund, the Department of Planning and Development. On his own behalf, Councilman Johnson offers an ordinance amending Chapter 21-1500 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Boards and Commissions, Public Deliberations, to require recording of transcription of certain meetings and provision to the public of access to such recordings and transcriptions. And an ordinance authorizing DSW1 LLC doing business as Nifty 50s to install, own, and maintain a proposed sidewalk cafe at 2700 South 10th Street. And an ordinance authorizing Stefan Garofolo to construct, own, and maintain a proposed exterior stairway at 3000 South 15th Street.
Those four bills just read by the chief clerk will be referred to the appropriate committee.
And a resolution authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority deeds conveying fees, simple title to the city on lots of pieces of ground with the buildings and improvements thereon situated in the 2nd Councilmanic District.
Next week's calendar.
Councilman Green offers one resolution entitled a resolution declaring October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month in the city of Philadelphia.
Next week's calendar.
Councilman Dom offers one bill entitled an ordinance amending Title IX of the Philadelphia Code entitled Regulation of Businesses, Trades, and Professions by adding a new chapter entitled Residential Property Wholesalers to regulate the solicitation of purchases of real property and require certain disclosures by property purchasers to homeowners, and amending Chapter 9-1100 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Fair Practices Ordinance, Protections Against Unlawful Discrimination, to provide protections to homeowners from solicitation and related problems.
For the committee.
Council President, can I be heard on that?
Absolutely. I'm sorry, Councilman.
That's okay.
I
Thank you.
recognize Councilman Dom.
Thank you, Council President. And I really want to thank Community Legal Services and the Greater Philadelphia Association of Realtors for their willingness to work together on this important issue to protect property owners in Philadelphia. I also want to thank the administration, Philadelphia Commission on Human Relations, and the Law Department for their countless hours of work and their valuable input on this bill. I also appreciate the level of support I received from many of my colleagues and would like to thank those who co-sponsored this bill. Council members Gilmore Richardson, Squilla, Quinones Sanchez, Johnson, Gautier, Parker, Thomas, Green, Brooks, and Councilmember Kim. Thank you all very much. Also, I look forward in this bill to helping residents across Philadelphia to better understand their rights as property owners and level the playing field by arming them with important information they need should they wish to sell to a wholesaler or avoid them altogether. And we've all seen these buy houses or cash for home signs throughout the city. You see them on telephone poles and all over the city. And we've heard the horror stories from so many homeowners who've undersold their homes or fought alongside someone to regain ownership of their home. And after unknowingly agreeing to what they thought was a fair deal, but in many cases was not. Making an offer to buy someone's home is not illegal, and it's certainly not illegal to sell your home for any price or for any reason you see fit. However, we have to be sure that everyone at the table is abiding by a shared set of standards and rules we all deem reasonable and responsible. Many wholesalers currently working in the shadows with no real oversight, and it's time now that we shed some light on their practices. So it's my hope with this legislation that we will provide more protections for homeowners who are solicited by wholesale buyers, and we'll be able to hold them accountable to the standards we expect of our businesses. Again, I want to thank CLS, Community Legal Services, and the Greater Philadelphia Association of Realtors, GPAR, for their ongoing dedication to this effort. And it was great to see them working together. And I look forward to working with all of my colleagues to educate our residents and set these new standards for wholesalers doing business in our city. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman.
Council President.
Chair recognizes Councilman Johnson.
Yeah, Council President, I just want to applaud my colleague, Councilman Dom, for this piece of legislation. Living in a gentrified neighborhood, I have seen and I continue to see the aggressive tactics of individuals coming into the neighborhood, soliciting for residents to sell their homes. A lot of individuals in the neighborhood sell their homes way below under market value, but also going even beyond that. The process has become so disrespectful because I've had constituents reach out where they have lost loved ones, and they will go down to the registered wills office and will pull a person's death certificate, and then they will begin to start calling and soliciting that individual to sell their home. There have been text messages. Don't know where they're getting our phone numbers from, but text messages and phone numbers aggressively asking you to sell your homes. And it's primarily happening in areas that are becoming gentrified. And so I thank Alan Dime, who comes from the real estate community, for stepping up to the plate and addressing this issue. Thank you very much, Councilman Dime.
Thank you, Councilman Johnson.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman, and that will be referred to committee.
Councilman Thomas offers one resolution entitled, "A Resolution Honoring and Congratulating the Northeast High School Football Team on their successful 2019-2020 season and overall 12-2 record in the Philadelphia Public Football League."
Awesome. That will be on next week's calendar.
Councilwoman Bass offers one bill and two resolutions entitled, "An Ordinance Amending Chapter 19-200 of the Philadelphia Code entitled City Funds, Deposits, Investments, Disbursements by revising the list of city depositories."
For the committee.
And a resolution authorizing the committees on Education and Public Health and Human Services to hold joint hearings examining the School District of Philadelphia's preparedness for public health and environmental emergencies and to develop best practices that can help the district adequately prepare for these emergencies.
This week's calendar.
And a resolution authorizing the committees on Public Health and Human Services and on Children and Youth to hold joint hearings examining current and best practices to ensure youth have a successful transition from foster care to thriving adulthood.
This week's calendar.
There are no other bills or resolutions being offered by the members, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Decker. And our next order of business is reports from committees, and the chair recognizes Councilman Johnson for a report from the Committee on Rules. Councilman Johnson. Okay, we'll come back. We'll find out what's going on. We'll come back to Councilman Johnson. We'll find out what's going on. The chair now recognizes Councilwoman Bass for a report from the Committee on Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs.
I'm ready, Council President, when you are. I apologize.
Okay.
I had technical difficulties.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Let's go back to Councilman Johnson. Councilman Johnson, just calling on you.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Committee on Rules reports out one bill with the favorable recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Decker. Please read the report.
To the President and members of the Council of the City of Philadelphia, the Committee on Rules, to which is referred Bill Number 200349, entitled An Ordinance Amending Title 14 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Zoning and Planning, to amend certain provisions of Chapter 14-500, entitled Overlay Zoning Districts, by creating the AME, American Street Overlay District. Respectfully reports that it has considered and amended the same, and returns the attached bill to Council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Chair again recognizes Councilman Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules of council be suspended as so to permit first reading of this bill, number 200349.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly second that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of bills number 200349. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Ayes have it, and this bill will be placed on our first reading calendar today. Chair now recognizes Councilwoman Bass for a report from the Committee on Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs. There's another challenge. Councilwoman Bass. Okay. Someone reach out.
Mr. President, we'll text her.
Yeah,
We'll
somebody.
text-
Okay, she's just saying she's having technical difficulties. Okay, we'll try and get back to her prior to the session and that concludes our reports from committee at this time. And our next order of business is consideration of the calendar. And I note that the bills just reported from committee with suspension of the rules have been deemed to have had a first reading. These bills will be placed on our first reading calendar, second reading calendar, and final passage calendar in our next session of council. As there are no additional bills on our first reading calendar, The chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker for the purpose of calling up resolutions and bills on the second reading and final passage calendar today.
Thank you, Mr. President. The following resolutions and bills are being called up from the second reading and final passage calendars today. They are numbers 200519, 200522, 200523, 200525, 200528, 200529, 200530, 200532, and 200534. All other bills and resolutions are being held.
Thank you so much, Councilwoman. Before we proceed with the consideration of the public comment, I will now take a brief 5 to 10 minute, I think it's going to be more like 5-minute recess to give our technology professionals some time to connect the speakers we have for today's meeting.
Hello?
All right. Right now, Philadelphia City Council, you are hearing City Council live here on WURD 96.1 FM 900 AM. I'm Charles Ellison. I'm your anchor for City Council Live, which is every Thursday morning. City Council starting sharply, pretty much a few minutes after 10. We always like that. We always like when City Council punctual, starting on time. They are now taking a brief recess, as you heard. You just heard Philadelphia City Council President Darrell Clark just indicating that they're going to take about 5 minutes, maybe no more than 10, to just kind of work out any technical issues, to make sure that it's a fairly smooth connection in preparation for the public comment period. We have a public comment period coming up in Philadelphia City Council. Members of the public, residents of Philadelphia, having the opportunity to present comments, to present testimony on issues that are of concern to them or specific bills that are currently being considered before the City Council. So we're just going to wait. Once again, you are listening to City Council Live. Thursdays, Reality Check Thursdays, are City Council Live days here on WURD. I think we might have some time to just go ahead and open up phone lines too. And as we open up phone lines, if people want to comment on what they're hearing in City Council, there's a couple of issues that were brought up by members of the City Council, namely Councilmember Helen Gim, also Councilmember Alan Dom, and Councilmember Kenyatta Johnson. They're all of them bringing up separate issues. You can comment on that. Also, we had a big vice presidential debate last night. You had incumbent Vice President Mike Pence, being met with a very able, solid challenge on the debate stage from, I think we have, City Council is back on.
Proceed with your testimony.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Karen Harvey. I'm a retired social worker. I am also a lead organizer at TURN, director of the Philadelphia Rent Control Coalition, and a member of the Philadelphia Tenants Union. I lived at the Penguin House Apartments from March 2010 until June 2017. From December 2016, when I and the other 100-plus tenants of Penguin were informed of the pending mass eviction, until June 2017, I applied for 40 different residences in search of a place to live. Myself and numerous other Penguin tenants were erroneously filed against in landlord-tenant court 3 times for supposed failure to pay rent. Any month for which we were unable to present rent receipts was deemed as our having failed to pay. Because of an inept maintenance man who flooded my apartment when he failed to turn off the bathroom water valve before raising the toilet to repair it, many of my belongings, including the majority of my rent receipts, were destroyed in that flood. Each eviction filing became a stain on my credit report, making it impossible for me to find a decent place to live. Finally, and only thanks to a family friend's willingness to provide me with a character reference, in June 2017, her landlord agreed to rent me a house where I continue to reside today. I live in West Philadelphia, on a block known for illegal activity and gun violence. I don't feel safe in my home. On 2 separate occasions, young men were shot in front of my door. Just this summer, my next-door neighbor was shot when an errant bullet went through her front door, hitting her as she sat watching television. There's virtually no police presence on my street. There are as many abandonments and vacant lots as there are occupied homes on my street. More than once, young men have followed me from the L stop onto my block, only turning back after a neighbor exiting her home spoke to me. Both times, the sun was still high in the sky. I am a senior using a cane, ripe for the picking. Rarely am I outside after dark alone. Almost nightly, young men lounge on my front steps, smoking weed and drinking. Last week, as is their frequent custom, they left their party favors behind for me to pick up. Thinking I'd gotten everything, walking down the cement steps, I stepped on an unseen plastic container and fell down the remaining steps. Because of those court filings on my record, I am unable to secure a safe place to live. The resolution presented today by Councilman Thomas represents my only chance of securing safe and decent housing for the remainder of my golden years. I seek nothing more than that which each of you desire for your own parents, a safe and decent place to live. I ask each of you in good conscience, is it really fair for me to be denied that right? I thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak on my case today.
Thank you very much, Ms. Harvey.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You're welcome. Mr. Decker, do we have anybody else?
There are no other speakers on the public comment list, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. We will briefly go back to our reports from committee, and at this time I would like to recognize Councilwoman Bass for a report from the Committee on Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Committee on Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs reports out 2 bills with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you very much. Mr. Decker, please read the report.
The Committee on Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs, to which is referred Bill Number 200374, entitled, An Ordinance Renaming and Designating Chalfont Playground in Northeast Philadelphia as the Corporal Jimmy O'Connor Memorial Playground, and Bill Number 200424, entitled, An Ordinance Renaming and Designating the property commonly referred to as the 30th and Jefferson Playground, located at the corner of 30th and Jefferson Streets, as the Howard McCall Senior Playground in the city of Philadelphia. Respectfully reports it has considered the same and returns the attached bills to council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm sorry. It's been moved and properly seconded the rules of council. I'm sorry, Chair recognizes Councilwoman Bass.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of bill numbers 200374 and 200424.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly seconded that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of bills number 200374 and 200424. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it, and these bills will be placed on our first reading calendar today.
Mr. President, Councilmember Thomas had noted he wanted to be recognized.
Yeah, Chair recognizes Councilman Thomas.
Thank you, Council President. I just wanted to first thank Ms. Karen for her testimony, but I did want to offer some clarity that the bill that she testified on today has been moved to next week's calendar. So we will be voting on that bill next week. I did not want her to think that we did not hear her testimony and we did not listen to the important issue that people are facing in Philadelphia as it relates to evictions. Thank you, Council President, for allowing me to clarify.
Thank you, Councilman. Thank you so much. We will get back on our agenda. And we will now move to our calendar. So, Mr. Decker, please read the title of resolution number 200519.
A resolution recognizing and celebrating the reopening of the historic Philip Jason Memorial House on October 10, 2020, which honors the legacy of Philadelphian Philip Jason, a Korean-American pioneer for democracy, political and religious freedom, and Korean independence.
And at this time, the chair recognizes Councilwoman Kim for a motion on the resolution.
Thank you, Council President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted. Mr. Decker, please read the title of resolution 200522.
A resolution recognizing October 2020 as Manufacturing Month and further honoring Oak Foundry for their innovation and dedication to the manufacturing industry in the city of Philadelphia.
Chair recognizes Councilman Heenan.
Thank you, Council President. I'd like to speak prior to making the motion on this resolution. As you well know, October is Manufacturing Month, and manufacturing industry has always been one of my primary focuses with small businesses in our neighborhoods, putting people all throughout our city to work. We live in a region that is home to more than 5,600 manufacturing firms. Over 200,000 workers are employed in the sector right here in the city of Philadelphia. COVID-19 has created so many challenges for Philadelphia area manufacturing and industry firms. In partners with Commerce, our PIDC, and the business leaders, we've worked real hard to troubleshoot some of the unique challenges these businesses have faced, just like a lot of businesses with transportation, childcare. But unlike other sectors of the economy, most manufacturing firms were permitted to keep working as essential businesses. Right? But they were faced, as I had stated earlier, with some challenges in their workforce and their supply challenges and their transportation problems. But they adapted rapidly so that we could continue to make products that were critically needed nationally and internationally, and right here in the city of Philadelphia with great partners. These firms did a great job. And despite the challenges, we've had some of the most major successes in the sector on the East Coast. For example, earlier this year, Augusta Westland, a helicopter manufacturer in near Northeast Philadelphia, was awarded a $176 million contract to build training simulators. And we've seen significant amount of industrial development. In fact, the inventory of available industrial land is at an all-time low. All right, warehouse distribution is the future of a lot of our manufacturing and product moving sector. All right, each year for Manufacturing Month, I highlight a Philadelphia manufacturing firm that deserves extra recognition. This year, I selected Oak Foundry. Oak Foundry is a specialty manufacturing firm in the Frankfurt Arsenal, right here in my district, and they all do wonderful things in the Arsenal. They are an award-winning agency of engineers that described what they do as designing and building electromagnetical, measurable, interactive, and other cool stuff. All right, they're from Drexel. All right, they're local. They're pretty smart kids, and they do a fantastic job with the technology, delivering their products and specialty. And it is true. They are a very cool company. I'm coordinating a tour for their facility later this month, and I welcome any members of council who wish to participate to join me. And if you're interested, please reach out to my office. And again, as always, I want to thank you, council, for recognizing that the people who live in the city of Philadelphia are also working in these manufacturing and specialty industries right here in our neighborhoods. So thank you, Council President. With that, I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and probably second that the resolution be adopted. All in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted. Mr. Decker, please read the title of resolution number 200523.
A resolution honoring and congratulating Lisa Forrest on the occasion of her promotion to Battalion Chief of the Philadelphia Fire Department and for becoming the first African-American woman to earn this prestigious position in the 149-year history of the Philadelphia Fire Department.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilman Jones. Councilman. Yeah. You on mute?
Thank you, Mr. President. Now I move for its adoption.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it.
Aye.
And that resolution is adopted. Mr. Decker, please read the title of resolution number 200525.
A resolution condemning President Donald Trump for making a Supreme Court nomination during his presidential election and calling upon Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell to defer consideration of the nomination until after the presidential inauguration in January.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilman Johnson for a motion.
Thank you, Council President. I enthusiastically move for the adoption of this resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and probably second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed?
Nay. Opposed.
Thank you. Ayes have it, and the resolution is adopted. Mr. Decker, please read the title number 200528.
Mr. Council President?
Yes, sir.
Councilman O'Neill, could I be recorded as voting
You just want
nay
to
on the resolution?
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
The same for me, Council President. I oppose it as well.
Okay. Let the record
Thank you.
reflect that Councilman O'Neill and Councilman both voted nay on resolution number 200525. Thank you. Mr. Decker, please read the title of resolution number 200528.
A resolution congratulating Daniel J. Hilferty on his retirement as the President and CEO of Independence Health Group and honoring his contributions to Philadelphia during his career.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilman Don.
Thank you, Council President. I move for the adoption.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed?
Aye.
Ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted. Mr. Decker, please read the title of resolution number 200529.
A resolution honoring and congratulating the Newman Goretti boys basketball team on their successful 2019-2020 season and overall 24-4 record in the Philadelphia Catholic League Boys Basketball Championships.
Chair recognizes Councilman Thomas.
Thank you, Council President. We're going to just try to continue to introduce different champions throughout the course of the city every week just to continue to boost morale and enthusiasm. So I enthusiastically move for the adoption of the resolution, and I congratulate all the participants who were able to be victorious last year.
Second.
Awesome. Thank you. It has been moved and enthusiastically seconded that the resolution be adopted. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it, and that resolution is
Aye.
enthusiastically adopted. Mr. Decker, please read the title of resolution number 200530.
A resolution authorizing the Committee on Global Opportunities and the Creative Innovative Economy to establish an advisory task force on disadvantaged communities and further authorizing the task force to produce a report of findings and strategies for uplifting disadvantaged persons in Philadelphia through access to arts and culture.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilman Thomas.
Thank you, Council President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Resolution be adopted. All in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted. Mr. Decker, 200532.
A resolution authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority deeds conveying fee simple title to certain city-owned lots or pieces of ground with the buildings and improvements thereon, situated in the First Councilmanic District of the City of Philadelphia, and further authorizing the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority to transfer to the Philadelphia Land Bank fee simple title to such properties pursuant to 16405 of the Philadelphia Code.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilman Spiller.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly second that the resolution be adopted. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted. Mr. Decker, please read the title of 200-534.
A resolution recognizing and celebrating the second annual Latin American Book Fair in Philadelphia for its work in highlighting local Latin American authors, literature, and culture.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilman O for a motion on the resolution.
Thank you very much, Council President. On behalf of myself and Councilmember Maria Quinones Sanchez, I'd like to move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
Thank you. There's been moved and properly second that the resolution be adopted. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted. Mr. Decker, do you have any additional resolutions for today's calendar? Mr. Decker? Can you?
A resolution authorizing City Council's Committee of the Whole to hold all hearings required pursuant to Bill Number 200364A, which established a requirement that the council hold hearings in connection with anticipated collective bargaining agreements between the city and police employees and the Philadelphia Police Department, represented by the Fraternal Order of Police, introduced by Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
Been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed?
Aye.
Council President,
Yes.
President, this is Bobby Heenan. I'd like to be recorded as no, please.
Thank you. Let the record reflect Councilman Heenan
Same with Councilman O'Neill.
and Councilman O'Neill and Councilman Heenan are voting nay. Thank you. The resolution is approved.
And a resolution authorizing the Committees on Education and on Public Health and Human Services to hold joint hearings examining the School District of Philadelphia's preparedness for public health and environmental emergencies, and to develop best practices that can help the district adequately prepare for these emergencies, introduced by Councilwoman Bass.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Bass.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution authorizing the Committees on Public Health and Human Services and on Children and Youth to hold joint hearings examining the current and best practices to ensure youth have a successful transition from foster care to thriving adulthood, introduced by Councilwoman Bass.
Chair again recognizes Councilwoman Bass.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
Been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed?
Aye.
Ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
There are no other resolutions on the final passage calendar, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. That concludes our calendar for today. Prior to recognizing members regarding speeches, I will note for the record at this time that we will use the chat feature available in Microsoft Teams to allow members to signify that they wish to be recognized in order to comply with the Sunshine Act. The chat feature must only be used for that purpose. With that said, are there any speeches on the part of minority? Chair recognizes Councilman O.
Thank you very much, Council President. I wanted to recognize Councilmember Isaiah Thomas and the freshman council members for adopting and adjusting to being council members during COVID-19. It is not easy. I recall, as I'm sure all of you do, my first day as a council member, I walked in and I didn't know what to do. There was nobody telling me what to do. I didn't know where the bathroom was. I didn't know how to do anything. And there was no real guidance on how to do things. And I remember I did something, and I think it was Council Member Blackwell who walked over to me and let me know that they had done that like 3 years ago and other things. And I was getting acclimated to working with my colleagues, and I just wanted to say it's not an easy process. And the new council members have done a fantastic job of really navigating this very difficult situation where they are quarantined and their staffs and working through everything and doing bills and resolutions and getting out there. And particularly with Councilmember Thomas, he's doing a great thing. He checked with me. We talked. There was a little miscommunication, which will happen because we're quarantined, we're separate, we're working through our staff and all that. And he just very quickly accommodated, kind of what I thought about it. And I tried to work with him, and it all worked out fantastic. And I want to thank him for that. And I'm happy to be able to support, his great work. And I look forward to all the contributions. I also wanted to recognize the Philip Jason Memorial Foundation that Councilmember Gim and I introduced a resolution recognizing what they're doing. Just coincidentally, they answered the call for PPE for our sanitation workers. And this past weekend, ASME Local 427, the president, Carrington, came by to pick up 6,000 masks, 250 bottles of hand sanitizer. And it just, there are so many citizens and people who step up to support their community, their neighbors, and our city workers. And hats off to the sanitation workers who are out there dealing with, the virus and all that, and making sure our city is safe and clean. So with that, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman. Speeches on behalf of the majority. Chair recognizes Councilman Thomas.
Thank you, Council President. First and foremost, I just want to say thank you to all my colleagues for all the support this past week. My wife and I gave birth to a beautiful baby boy, and you guys couldn't be more supportive and more, I don't know. I'm just excited. So thank you, guys. I appreciate that first and foremost. Councilmember O talked a little bit about the Arts and Culture Task Force. And the Arts and Culture Task Force is an initiative directly out of the Disadvantaged Communities Task Force. So first of all, Council President, I just want to thank you for your leadership and putting us in a position to be able to listen to citizens all across the city of Philadelphia. As my co-chair and I, Councilmember Catherine Gilmore Richardson, who I'm very grateful to, as we've been listening to citizens of Philadelphia and council members as a whole, I think almost everyone at this point has either attended or had a staff on at least one of the listening sessions. We've heard some consistent narratives and consistent issues that Philadelphians face as it relates to the problems that they see. I applaud all my colleagues who have stepped up to the plate for different initiatives to combat the gun violence that we see in the city of Philadelphia. Not just you, Council President. I got to recognize Councilman Johnson, who's been champion for that issue. And we know, just putting on my Councilman Jones hat, this is a complex problem that's going to require a lot of people to come together to fix this solution. So we have the lawsuit going on. The Arts and Culture Task Force, again, which is a collaborative effort, will specifically look at how we can address that particular area as it relates to people who've been suffering. But today, the next initiative out of the Disadvantaged Communities Task Force will be a press conference at 2 p.m. And thank you to Councilmember Bass for allowing us to come in your district and launching your district, where we will be communicating resource hubs for young people between the ages of 14 and 21, where you can go in the evenings and on the weekends, and you can participate in free activities that will be safe, that will keep you busy, and that will hopefully put you in a position to build mentors and relationships to help them navigate their way through life. If I wasn't on city council, this is the work that I would be doing. And so I have to continue to wear that hat. And our goal is to piece together as many different solutions as possible based on what the citizens of Philadelphia are telling us. So we could do right what you said, Council President, before this session started, and beat this gun violence pandemic, just like we're beating all the other issues that we're facing as a municipality. So if you're free today, please come out and join us at 2 p.m. We'll be at Triumph Baptist Church. We'll be announcing the resource hubs. And this is, again, just one step more as it relates to not only listening to citizens of Philadelphia as it relates to how they're suffering because of this coronavirus pandemic, but also us just taking one more small step in combating this terrible gun violence pandemic that we're facing right now as well, too. So thank you, Council President. Thank you, colleagues. I know that was a lot. I'm very emotional and sleep deprived right now. But we are in a state of emergency, and it requires the maximum amount of time we have for us to put our best foot forward. So I'm here today and ready to fight with you all, and continue this battle. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Thank you so much. Chair recognizes Councilman Green.
Thank you, Council President. The joy and celebration that you, Councilmember Thomas, and your wife have is phenomenal. Just hearing your new son's voice as we are in this council session brings me joy. The fact we have another Black boy, another Black life in our city brings me so much hope and joy, even though we have so many challenging situations that are going in our city. And I have to reflect on yesterday's press conference that it's the hope of future children doing well in our city, but also we've got to reflect on the challenges we have in our city. And yesterday's press conference was another piece of hope about what we can do to address the violence in our city. Council President, through your leadership, we had the mayor, a number of council members there, our city solicitor, Marcel Pratt, members of the General Assembly like Senator Street, so many members of this body, Public Interest Law Center, Hogan Lavelles, all coming together for this class action to address and allow us as a city to be able to regulate guns based on our own gun laws. And so this class action, and I'm sure many other members of council will speak about this press conference yesterday, but this class action appropriately named Crawford versus the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Many of us in this body know the story of Stanley Crawford and his son, and so many victims were there at the press conference to really talk about what we need to do in this city and do what we need to do to address violence. But that class action lawsuit could have easily had a different title. It could have easily been Johnson versus the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. We all know the story of our colleague, Councilmember Johnson, and how the death of his cousin motivated him to get engaged in this work well before he became a member of this body, before he became a state representative, or working for Senator Tony Williams. I first met Councilmember Johnson when I actually had some hair, and he was at Fells, and he was working on anti-violence initiatives then, and starting Peace Not Guns. In fact, I still have his Peace Not Guns email address in my phone because he's been working on this issue all the time that I've known him in this city. And so as I reflect on yesterday's press conference, and recently I got my ballot in the mail, and we all know the importance of voting on November 3rd, and Councilmember Johnson has probably been the most staunch anti-violence advocate we've had in the history of this body, not only in reference to crime and anti-violence, but also victims and supporting victims in the city of Philadelphia. And so he introduced legislation, and we supported his legislation for a ballot question to amend the Home Rule Charter. And I just want to read that ballot question because all the ballot questions are important on our November 3rd election, but I want to highlight his ballot question, and I'll read it.
WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia.
Office of the Victim Advocate to advocate for crime victims and to work with victim service providers to coordinate, plan, train, educate, and investigate issues relating to crime victims. And I hope that everyone will support all the ballot questions, in particular, ballot question number 2. Now, recently I learned, and I was somewhat shocked, that Reclaim Philadelphia is opposing this initiative. I was surprised because Reclaim is an organization that supports and uplifts Black Lives Matter. And so the fact that they would oppose an office that would support victims like a Stanley Crawford or the other people that were there yesterday, or someone even like our own colleague, Councilmember Johnson, because he and his family have been victims of violence in our city. And when you look at the numbers, if you look at the recent numbers from the Philadelphia Police District, we've had 368 homicide victims in the city of Philadelphia as of last night. That is more than last year. Last year we had 264. So we're already above the number of last year with a 39% increase. And so we need to do all that we can to address the gun violence in our city. Yesterday's announcement of a class action lawsuit is one way to do that. We also need to support the victims of violence in our city. Victims like Mr. Crawford, the other plaintiffs in a class action lawsuit, and even victims like our own Councilmember Kenyatta Johnson, who has been a staunch advocate for victims in the city of Philadelphia who have suffered through crime and violence. So I'm hopeful that this was just a brief lapse in judgment by Reclaim, and that they will take a different perspective and support Councilmember Johnson, the victims in the city of Philadelphia, by having this office, and encourage everyone to support all of the ballot questions, and in particular, ballot question number 2, so we can help the victims of violence in our city that so desperately need our support and help as we deal with the issues of crime and violence in our city. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman. Priorities matter. Chair recognizes Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. Since my colleague, Member Green, is recognizing ballot questions, I'd like to point out number 2. Number 2 ballot question is, shall the citizens create a Citizens Police Oversight Commission? And I think equally that is something that we should consider and vote yes for. As we look at the balance between public safety, there are different shades of public safety. Public safety means that when you get stopped by the Philadelphia Police Department at 2 in the morning, that you should be treated like a citizen with respect. Also, if Black Lives Matter, as we did on Musgrave, they should matter on Market Street, and they should matter on Market Street in Harrisburg, as exhibited by the lawsuit that we put forth yesterday. I want to cite out to give context that in Afghanistan last year, which is a war zone, there were 22 servicemen that lost their lives. 22. As Member Green talked about, we've exceeded last year's number, over 300 murders in the city of Philadelphia alone, just one city. So as we look to get self-governance over gun laws, it just makes sense. It is important that we be safer in the streets of Philadelphia than we would be in the nation of Afghanistan. It's just common sense. So we've been, this is not our first time at the rodeo. We've gone up against the gun lobbyists. We've gone up against the NRA. We got sued not only as a body, but personally. And here we are again, stepping up in 2020 to protect the citizens of the city of Philadelphia. So I want to salute you, Mr. President. I want to salute the mayor for joining us and spearheading this lawsuit, because it shows to the people who asked Member Johnson, myself, other members of council, Gautier, every day, well, what are you doing? What are you prepared to do as you want to save our lives? Well, this says in one statement that we will go up against friend or foe. We have a lot of friends in Harrisburg, but some of them in between Harrisburg and Philadelphia, there's Mississippi, and we're willing to step to the plate to deal with them too. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilman Johnson.
Thank you, Council President. Just a couple things I wanted to acknowledge. First and foremost, thank you, Councilman Green. Thank you, Councilman Jones, talking about the ballot position, creating the Office of Victim Advocate. I want to thank the following individuals for being sponsors of this ballot question: Councilman Thomas, Councilwoman Gim, Councilman Squilla, Councilmember Green, Councilmember Brooks, Councilmember Gilmore, Councilman Jones, Council President Darrell Clark. I thank you for being supportive of the legislation. And I don't know if it's misinformation. I know on the state level, there's concern that how the state operates, they have taken more of a punitive approach regarding advocating as it relates to the rights of victims. But nevertheless, this ballot question has been a result of a year of work with the special committees on gun violence, specifically subcommittee of victims and co-victims of gun violence. And so there are a group of mothers who have lost sons and daughters to gun violence. There are a group of mothers and fathers who will never, ever have that opportunity to have dinner, breakfast, or lunch with their children. They will never, ever have a chance to spend a holiday, a birthday with their children. And so this is the results of me sitting down, organizing, and working with those mothers to make sure that they have a voice and a seat at the table. A lot of times we talk about the issue of criminal justice reform directly from their mouths. Our interests, our voices are always put to the side. And so we want to make sure they have a seat at the table as it relates to trauma support. We want to make sure they have a seat at the table that when a loved one is lost and they need a place to go for a referral, they can come and feel like they have the necessary support that they need, as well as when they're trying to put their lives back together. This office will not duplicate any other services that are being done out there, i.e. the district attorney's office, i.e. victim service organizations across the city of Philadelphia. This will be a hub that specifically deals with advocacy, policy, legislation, training, and supporting and uplifting other organizations like Mothers in Charge, the National Justice Homicide Alliance. And there are other grassroots, boots on the ground organizations that are doing this work day to day, assisting and helping families of murdered victims, families of shooting victims, and other violent crimes that need our support. And so I just want to educate everyone, because there's a lot of misinformation about the upcoming ballot question. My office was never consulted, not one time, regarding any recommendations, any suggestions as it relates to how we move forward here in the city of Philadelphia. So I just want to state that for the record. Also, I want to acknowledge the work of Council President Darrell Clark as it relates to us moving forward with the lawsuit around regulating our own destinies, specifically around the issue of gun law. And so I talked to my colleagues early on before we even started council session of how there was a group of young men in Bucks County that was running a gun trafficking operation. And what they would do is they would go from one store to the next store, purchasing guns legally, and then distributing them and selling those guns on the street. This lawsuit will enable us to control our own destiny by regulating those type of incidents where illegal guns are flooding the streets of Philadelphia. So I thank all my colleagues for stepping up to the plate to address this issue. We know it has to be comprehensive. There is not going to be one solution that's going to enable us to combat this issue, but we have to address it comprehensively. And last but not least, at 1 p.m. today, we have a Zoom meeting with the Office of Behavioral Health, an organization called Neighborhood Networks, that deals specifically with the issue of trauma. Our communities are hurting. Our communities are hurting. And so we want to figure out, how do we address the issue of trauma? How do we address the issue of grief in our neighborhoods? We know, as I always say, hurt people hurt other people. And at the end of the day, we don't begin getting to the root cause of why these young men are walking around with so much anger and pain, that they could take a life with no regard for how it's going to have an impact, not only on that other individual, but also the community as a whole. We have to find out what the root cause of the trauma is coming from. And so that will be at 1 p.m. today. That's when to remind everyone, if they want to participate, they are welcome to join. Thank you very much, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman. Keep up the good work. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Bass.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. And I just wanted to speak very, very briefly. As we all know, we woke up this morning, we had the event yesterday in Germantown. in which we, are proceeding and trying to control our own destiny and saying that we want to have a say in terms of how, gun violence is happening in the city of Philadelphia, and that for those who, represent the entire Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, whether it's the state reps in Philadelphia who are very supportive, for the most part, just completely on board, to those who are in the hinterlands, or as Councilman Jones mentioned, the Mississippi part of Pennsylvania. All of these people ran for public office. All of these people were elected to serve their district, but also the entire Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And so it cannot be taken so lightly that these are Pennsylvanians who are dying. Maybe that will sort of shake their consciousness, if you will, if they think of it as not Philadelphians, but as Pennsylvanians, because they have an obligation and a duty to ensure that we are all protected, that we are all under the best of care and living in the best of circumstances. And so the failure that you see here in Philadelphia with the gun violence is a failure across the Commonwealth, in every county, in every state rep district, in every state senate district. It's not just a Philadelphia problem. It's not just a state problem. It's a problem throughout the entire country. And so we need to get a handle on it. We all woke up, as I said this morning, to the reports of what happened in Germantown. As Mr. Council President, as you said, not even a half mile away from where we were yesterday. And it's absolutely outrageous. I just can't even imagine that, this person had an assault weapon, which was laying on the ground on Germantown Avenue in news reports this morning, after he had committed a homicide with that assault weapon and attempted homicide with two others. And so, I'm just flabbergasted and don't know really exactly what to say, except that I thank you, Mr. President, and to all the powers to be that really have worked on this piece of legislation, on this lawsuit, to make sure that those in Harrisburg know that they have a responsibility and a duty to all of us. So I just really wanted to put that out there. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you to all of my colleagues. We're all going through this, and I really appreciate you. And also, really quickly, Councilman Johnson, on your ballot initiative, we want to support that. I can't tell you how many homes I've been into where somebody's been killed in the neighborhood, and I'm sitting, on somebody's sofas, their mama's sofa, their grandmama's sofa, everybody's in mourning, and nobody knows what to do. We need this office. I wish we didn't need it, but we need this office. If we don't need any other office right now, we need this office. And so I'm 1,000% with you, Councilman. I want all the people in the 8th District to know how important this is across the city of Philadelphia. We have to support this ballot initiative, undoubtedly. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilwoman, and thank all of you for your continued support to make sure that we improve the quality of life for all Philadelphians. As we've seen over the years, this is not a North Philly thing, a West Philly thing, a Germantown thing, South Philly, everywhere. And hopefully we will get to a point where we are successful, and we will make sure we keep everybody abreast as the litigation proceeds. So thank you so much.
Council President?
Yes, sir. Yes, Councilman Johnson.
If you don't mind, can I just get a small point of information for clarification? I mentioned that this afternoon at 1 o'clock, we will be meeting with the organization is called Network of Neighbors. I said neighbor. I said something else, and there's another organization. So I stand corrected. I want to give the proper organization their props, which is Network of Neighbors. We will be hosting them at 1 p.m. That's the organization that does trauma-informed services out and about in the community. Thank you very much, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman. That concludes our speeches on behalf of the minority and the majority today. With that, I will recognize Councilman Jones for a motion to adjourn. Councilman.
Try to be good with my mic. Thank you, Mr. President. I move that council stand adjourned until Thursday, October 15, 2020 at 10 a.m.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly seconded that council stand adjourned until Thursday, October 15, 2020, 10 a.m. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes Ayes have it. Motion carries. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, guys.
Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on WURD Radio and WURDradio.com.
All right, welcome back. You've been listening to a live broadcast of the Philadelphia City Council, Thursdays at City Council Live. I'm Charles Ellison, your anchor for City Council Live. We are going to take a break. Philadelphia City Council has just adjourned, so we're going to take a break here on WURD. We're going to transition from City Council Live to a little bit of Reality Check here on 96.1 FM, 900 AM, WURDradio.com, WURD TV, WURD app. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
The time is now to put an end to the chronic incompetence of Donald Trump and his League of Liars. Donald Trump makes a mockery of the institution of the presidency. He's polarized our country, and his dangerous policies must not continue. Joe Biden has the character, empathy, and experience to lead us through these challenging times. He helped lead the nation out of the 2008 financial crisis into the longest period of economic growth in our history, and he can do it again. As president, he will heal divisions and unite us around the shared values of justice. He'll create opportunities for quality education and good-paying jobs, and he'll build on the Affordable Care Act, not tear it down. While Donald Trump thinks coronavirus and climate change are a hoax, Joe Biden already has a coronavirus recovery plan and a strategy to create more jobs while also tackling the climate crisis. Vote for a president who will stand on the right side of history. Vote for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Paid for by Black PAC and Priorities USA Action, blackpac.com and prioritiesUSAaction.org, which are responsible for the content of this advertising. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
Recovery starts with a call. Pennsylvania's Substance Use Disorder Hotline is staffed by real people who are trained to help. They're here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They'll get you or your loved one into treatment regardless of your access to insurance. If you or someone you know is suffering from addiction, call 1-800-662-HELP. Recovery starts with a call.
Paid for with Pennsylvania taxpayer dollars.
Tune in this Saturday from 5 to 6 p.m. for the Islam Today show with a perspective on moral guidance and Islamic principles and values. PICO has many ways to help you lower your energy usage and save money at home. Here's one. If your heating and cooling system is more than 20 years old, it may be time for your contractor to replace it with a high-efficiency Energy Star certified model. You'll get a rebate from PICO and save on your monthly electric bill. You'll find a list of new heating and cooling system rebates at pico.com/rebates. Or you can call 1-888-5-PICO-SAVE for all the details. Plus, find instant discounts on smart thermostats and more at pico.com/marketplace. There's free shipping on orders over $49.
Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on WURD Radio and WURDradio.com.
All right, welcome back to Reality Check. Just coming out of City Council Live. City Council Live just held with the Philadelphia City Council, now adjourning just a few moments ago after some impassioned and somewhat emotional speeches from a number of City Council members about rising gun violence in the city of Philadelphia. So obviously you had council business. Council does have to go about its business. City Hall has to go about its business. Once they started, and we only had one person, one Philadelphia resident provide public comment today. So we have to work on that. Not sure if people are understanding that they have an opportunity to provide public comment, which is interesting. They can provide, they don't have to go down to City Hall. You don't have to take like a whole half your day to get down to City Hall to provide public comment, since things are virtual still right now. But there's a big opportunity there for people to participate in City Council's public comment segment when they are meeting as a whole. And so I was quite surprised. You only had like one person. It was only one resident. She's given a very passionate speech about being a victim of gentrification and displacement in the city, and being a victim of housing issues and housing challenges, which is a real major tough reality for many Philadelphia residents, and how she intersected that with the violence, the public safety crisis that the city is going through right now. So definitely, maybe it needed to end there. Maybe it needed to just end on that note. Maybe we needed to hear just that one public comment, that one piece of testimony that was being provided by, I think it was Miss Helen. I forget the last name, who was providing that. But definitely need to encourage people to take advantage of the public comment period during city council sessions. So I guess, we got to do some work with that here on City Council Live and just reminding people each week that they can do that. We're going to open the phone lines, 215-634-8065, toll free, 866-361-0900. A number of things to talk about. Obviously, we have a gun violence situation that feels as if it's spiraling out of control. It's been spiraling out of control for some time. We are now at officially 368 homicides in the city of Philadelphia as of October 7th. That's going to go up by the time we reach the tally, the Philadelphia Police Department tally for October 8th, especially when you consider what happened in Germantown, in the Germantown section of Philadelphia last night. We heard Councilwoman Cindy Bass, that's her district, talk about that 19-year-old woman, a 19-year-old woman shot in cold blood during an attempted carjacking by a 29-year-old man who ended up getting into a gunfight with police, and Philadelphia police did shoot and kill that perpetrator. Just a brutal gun battle that was taking place. I think people are still trying. It sounded like Councilwoman Cindy Bass is still trying to assess and grasp for herself exactly what happened. I think people are still kind of just stunned and shocked about the way that all transpired in Germantown. Just very dramatic events, and that's going on all over Philly. But I think it just hit people particularly hard, and a young life, a young innocent life snuffed out like that. And some people may say that Philadelphia police doing his job yesterday in Germantown. That's also part of the discussion now about making sure that Philadelphia police are providing optimal public safety in Philadelphia neighborhoods and preventing violence from happening or responding effectively to violence. And it sounds like, despite that scene of chaos in Germantown last night, it sounds like that violence was responded to effectively by Philadelphia police yesterday in Germantown. But right now we are at 39% more homicides today than we were this day in 2019. There were only 261. I don't want to say only 264. That was already a lot last year. 264 homicides this day, 2019. There are now 368 homicides. That should be at that's going to be at 370 tomorrow. And Philadelphia is on pace at this rate. It is on pace, approaching fast 400 homicides for sure in 2020. I'm not sure what Philly's going to do if it reaches 500, but you did hear Councilman Curtis Jones earlier on saying, we've got more people killed in Philadelphia in a year than American soldiers killed in Afghanistan. And so that's something to consider. That's something to note. But I want to get your thoughts on it. 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900. Also, major debate last night. So we're going to the national stage a little bit. Vice presidential debate between incumbent Vice President Mike Pence and his challenger, Senator Kamala Harris. Very interesting debate, much more substantive, obviously a lot more substance there. So we got a chance to assess, unpack the campaign platforms of both camps, of both the Trump-Pence camp and the Biden-Harris camp. We got to see exactly a glimpse into what are they offering, because we couldn't do that last week with Trump and also Biden when they debated last week. Also some breaking news out of the world of politics and presidential campaign politics. The Commission on Presidential Debates had offered, or had not offered, but had mandated a virtual town hall, virtual style debate next week between the two presidential candidates, President Trump and former Vice President Biden. They wanted to do things remotely because of clear public health safety concerns. And as of this morning, President Trump declining to participate in that town hall format style debate. He is declining to participate. He's saying that he will hold a rally instead. So that is the breaking news, the breaking national news coming off the campaign trail. We sort of expected that. And it's not really clear. He won't provide, and his medical team, his people will not provide any evidence of negative tests. It's a very smart move on Biden's part to have acted as cautiously as he did. Who wants to be in a room right now, who really wants to be in a room right now with President Trump. And as he super spreads, and actually coronavirus cases, infection cases are now spiking in the District of Columbia. So not only do you have an outbreak that started in the White House in the center of the nation's capital, you have an outbreak throughout the city of Washington, D.C. The citizens of Washington, D.C. are now in danger. And there has been a significant, since that event in the White House, there has been D.C. Department of Health officials have indicated that they are now noticing a very significant and alarming spike in COVID cases in the District of Columbia. So that's something else we have to consider and think about as well. Let's go to these phone lines, 215-634-8065, toll free 866-361-0900. Let me go to Prince out of Schuylkill. Who's calling in for a reality check. Prince, what's good?
Hey, how are you today?
All right, good morning.
All right, so I got a young man who just lost his job. He's driving for Brink's truck, and they wanted him to do something that he said he wasn't going to do. And then by right, he should have done it. After 55 stops, they wanted him to do 10 more stops because somebody didn't come to work. And they wound up firing him for insubordination. So I got a job for him at $20 an hour, and so he has to go get a COVID test. And so he doesn't have a job, so he doesn't have any more insurance. So they cut him off the insurance. And so they're charging $200 for people, for the working poor who want to get back on their feet, $200 to get a COVID test. And this is the one in West Philadelphia on Market Street. Number one, my question is why? Why is they charging $200 for the working poor to get that test? And number two, where can you get the test for free? So we can send people who don't want to be on welfare, don't want to be unemployed, and can get the opportunity to make a few dollars. Where can we send them at? So that's my first question. And
you said that's the testing site in West Philadelphia?
Yes, on 40th Street.
On 40th Street.
Yeah,
on 40th Street. Okay, yeah. I'm gonna find out about that. What, $200? $200 for a COVID?
It's $199. like really, like this. He doesn't want to be on welfare. He doesn't want to be out here in the street. He actually want to work. And so, I just need some assistance with that, man, because it shouldn't make sense. It should be free because, just because you don't know who's asymptomatic and who actually want this stuff. And I think from the very beginning, when you only did essential people, you created this Pandora box that made people just interested in getting it at all, that you didn't go into the worst area.
Now, to my understanding, I got you here, Prince, to my understanding, you can go to phila.gov. You should be able to, there's a map of free COVID-19 test sites throughout Philadelphia. But, Philadelphia, the government is saying, I'm wondering what testing site that is because, according to the city of Philadelphia, testing for COVID-19 should be free and not require any proof of citizenship. That's what the city is saying. That's what the city is saying. And you should be able to go on that map on phila.gov and be able to find a testing site near you.
And someone in my office suggested that he go to public assistance and get on welfare because he doesn't have any income, he doesn't have any insurance.
Has he called the coronavirus helpline?
Right. And so
did he call it?
He doesn't want to, not that he doesn't want to do that. He just is saying, I'm 28 years old. I don't want to be on welfare for anything.
Right. But has he called the coronavirus hotline? There's a citywide 24/7 coronavirus hotline. They can lead him to a free COVID testing site. Has he done that? You want me to give that number out? Let me give that number out because the brother should call it.
Yeah.
Okay, it's 1-800. Huh?
He called the location because it's on the flyer for the job, and he called the location at 40th Street. And when they made his appointment,
so let me do this. So Prince, here's the 1-800 number. So first, 1-800-722 for not just for you but for everyone listening. 1-800-722-7112. That's the first step. I would think. From my understanding, there's free testing sites throughout Philadelphia. I do have concerns about the accessibility of testing sites in Philadelphia because a quarter of the people in Philadelphia don't drive, and a lot of these testing sites are inaccessible for people who don't drive. But to my understanding, city sanctioned or city approved testing sites in Philadelphia are free. And so 1-800-722-7112. If this brother can't call the 1-800 number, Prince. I can't. I mean, who
No,
can help him?
listen, no.
Yeah.
We can get there. Same way we got vote signs throughout the city, we should have where there are free COVID testing signs throughout the city. That's all I'm saying. I'm just saying the predicament that population that you're trying to reach is have a number of issues, and those issues should be addressed by those people who are getting those salaries. And in the Northwest, that shooting in the Northwest, they've had more daytime shootings in the Northwest this year than ever before. And so all those people who have these passionate pleas while they're collecting a six-figure salary, it doesn't equate. Your salary, you're taking care of you and yours. It is not matriculating down or saving lives of people in that Germantown area. And so we got to do it better. We got to do it better. We have to get better at it, but we need people.
I think that's I mean, that site, to my understanding, that's Penn Medicine. That's University of Penn Medicine. That's at 41st and Market.
Yeah,
I think that's the site, and so I guess that's being run by Penn Medicine. So it should be a conversation with Penn Medicine about, like, yo, why y'all charging? I mean, I guess Penn Medicine's rationale for that is, well, you know,
why y'all charging a couple $100 to the hood? Yeah,
right. But you know, once again, you know, there are free testing sites all throughout Philadelphia. This brother has got to either go to philly.gov and look on the map or call 1-800-722-7112. If he doesn't do that, that's on him.
No, it's not if he doesn't do it.
It's
okay. But what I'm saying is the difference in walking a block and then going to Frankfurt Avenue. I hear you. If you poor, you poor, man. That's shouldn't be penalized.
I hear you. But I mean, you know, you got the job ready for him, and I mean, he's got to. I hear you. It does. The city should do better. The city should do better. But based on the circumstances at this exact moment in time,
we're going to give him the $200 to go and get the test. That's what the circumstances.
You could get a free test.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, you know, that's cool. Give them the $200. But, you know, in the meantime, I think for everyone else out there, 1-800-722-7112 or go to philly.gov, and there's
you guys
free
have a good day, man. Thank you, man.
Yeah, you do the same. All right. Thanks so much. So I appreciate you, Prince, but, you know, I don't know why you're going to spend $200 when you could spend, what, I don't know, $5 or $10 to go across city to get a free COVID test. So I feel like if that's what it takes, and so like I'm trying to figure this out. I don't understand why it's so difficult for like this young brother to call a 1-800 number or to go on his smartphone on philly.gov or go on if he has a laptop and a broadband connection. So I mean, anyway, just, you know, once again, I think this is important for people to know. Philly.gov to find a testing site near you, and 1-800-722-7112 to get to a free testing site. That's just important. People need to know that. Let's continue to go through the phone calls. Jamila out of North Philly is calling for a reality check. Jamila?
Hey, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning. All right.
And to the audience. Listen, I do encourage anyone in our audience to reach out and do public comment on what's going on in city council. Definitely important. But it is a little of a challenge getting the information first to know what the bills and resolutions are, then contacting them in advance, make sure you do that the day before, and then wait for the call back on the day of the hearing. So it is a few steps, a little different, but convenient in that you don't have to go out your house. But I heard something great today being introduced in city council, a resolution regarding wholesaling in real estate.
Yeah.
It's big. We need to definitely focus in on that. People are coming into our community. They're sending all kinds of information to folks' houses, and really being very aggressive and getting people to sign on to documents that they shouldn't be signing on without a professional in front of them. I want people to listen out for that. But, Charles, I want you to tell me how to be included some kind of way in the Environmental Justice Forum coming up. Because, listen, it's not that many of us in North Philadelphia doing these issues as related to environmental justice. And to explain it as it relates to an urban community, you mentioned land. Land is very important. Land use and all those issues. Land trust now you're hearing more often. And we want to make sure that these issues are raised up in a forum as it relates to environmental justice. Very important issues: air, land, water, all these issues as it relates to what's going on in our community, climate change. We don't have the tree canopy that we need. So every time we get a new development in our neighborhood, we're asking if they have space for trees. So, you know, how the urban communities interpret these issues. You know, the environmental justice law has been on the book since President Clinton's time. And we really have had only one environmental justice conference in Pennsylvania, and that was like in mid-2000s. So here we are all these years later, you know, trying to be relevant. Thankfully, the Franklin Institute with the Crust Group that's talking about environmental issues in the urban area, we were able to partner with them. But we want to make certain that, you know, we kind of get in where we fit in. So, can I say hi to
you? Now, when you say environmental justice forum, which one are you talking about? Our environmental justice summit. We're going to be doing that all day next Monday here on WURD. Right. Oh, absolutely. I mean, well, first, you know, listen in, tune into it. That's one. Two, there'll be moments where we're going to, you know, open up the phone lines and have people call in and talk about those issues that you're going through related to, you know, the spaces you live in, you know, so, you know, the air you're breathing, whether, you know, you're at home, you're dealing with, you know, respiratory illnesses like asthma, your kids have asthma, you know, that's 9 times out of 10, there's going to be some kind of environmental issue that's happening in that community, or water qualities, you're dealing with flooding, trash is an environmental issue, violence is an environmental issue. So I you know, that's where we have to kind of connect. That's that big first step, you know, where we're going to have people participate in. I'll be on Reality Check earlier in the WURD Environmental Justice Summit starts at 10 a.m. on Monday, which is normally Reality Check. We're going to have those discussions. Then I'm going to be on and off the air throughout the day and even in the evening. And we even have more time. Like I'll be on air until 9 p.m. You know, just basically talking about environmental justice and just letting people know that environmental justice, every issue or challenge that Philadelphia or any black community is going through, 100% here, it's tied to the environment. There's an environmental problem behind every problem. Like, you know, you're talking about gun violence, that is an environmental problem. That is an issue, a challenge of space, of issues that are happening in that space, and that's the environment. And there are also environmental solutions to those problems. So yeah, that's that, and it's just having people recognize that. One other thing too, Jamil, thanks for this. I have to let you go so I can get these other phone calls. But the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection has an Environmental Justice Advisory Board. So go to dep.pa.gov for more information on this. But they've got 2 advisory board meetings coming up on October 15th. And November 17th. And that's also a good way to start getting, these are open to the public, the Environmental Justice Advisory Board to get involved on a state level, but also to, you know, force the state to look more at and be more responsive to the city, because Philadelphia is a very environmentally distressed place. And so I'll get more information on that to folks, but in the meantime, go to dep.pa.gov. That's the Commonwealth's, the state of Pennsylvania's Department of Environmental Protection. They have an Environmental Justice Advisory Board, and so folks need to get more involved with that and participate in it as well. We need to let people know, real quick before I go to these other phone calls, Black people need to be involved in environmental issues. Black people need to lead on environmental issues. Black people are on the front lines of environmental issues. This is not a white people's issue. Stop saying that. Folks out there who keep saying that, get that out your head. This is a black folks issue. It's been a black folks issue since the time our ancestors got on those shores and were forced on those shores in Virginia in 1619. It's that deep. It's that deep. So I'm real proud that WURD is the only black media outlet in the country that covers this full time, that covers environment full time. So, you know, and folks, I think the WURD listening audience, I think you all know that by now. Hey, thanks so much, Jamil, for calling. Let me go to Elias out of North Philly, who's calling for a reality check.
Good afternoon, sir. Hey,
Elias, how are you doing, sir?
All right, good. I want to mention on that conference because I really got a lot of say to those people.
Okay, we can't hear you, Elias. You sound kind of distant, as if you're talking to us through a can. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. How can I get into that public conference? Because I got so much to say to these people in council, the public hearing. How do I sign up for that?
Yeah, public comment. You want to, you know what? I forget the exact number. Go to phlcouncil.com, and it will have the information there. You want to call the. I'm trying to get that number for you. No, just go to phlcouncil.com when you get a moment, and call the Philadelphia City Council President's office, or you know who your council member is, Elias?
Oh, definitely no, but they don't never answer their calls. They never answer my emails. So I'm gonna send you I'm gonna send you through your email that you gave me yesterday, and then maybe you can assist me kind of on that.
I can send that. I think you call your council person to get on that public comment list. You can call the city council president's office, of course. But send me that email then. But in the meantime, go to phlcouncil.com. Elias, you got to know, bro, find out who your city council person is. Right?
I know who it is. It's Signore.
You should know that by now, brother. Bro, you should know that. You should know that by now. I mean, you out there doing the Cape Crusader thing, brother, and I appreciate that. I love what you're doing and sparking awareness around it. You got to find, and this is a lesson for everyone who wants to get involved in their neighborhood or community. Before you start doing that, know who your city council person is, know who your mayor is, your city council person is, your state representative, and your state senator, and then go off and do what you got to do.
Hey, yeah, I got that. I know both.
Okay.
State and all right. So here's my other thing, man.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about environmental issues.
Right.
You know, these businesses are part of this problem. It's perpetuating the drug epidemic, addiction, and environmental issues, too, because it creates the violence. We know that. And I'm going to fight for that. I'm going to fight for that real hard. A lawsuit needs to be done, through city council, and I'm going to put that in their face and tell them. Yeah. But did you see that conference down Germantown with the district attorney council member announcing about the poll watchers, how passionately they were and saying they're going to call the cops on them, blah, 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 all that? Well, they
should
be.
They should be.
Yeah,
they should do that.
Though. But do you notice not the police commissioner, not city council members, no one that has these districts never passionately go after drug dealers and tell them, we're watching you, we're going to get you, and announce that, Yeah. And also, people need to know, and city councils don't even say this, people need to know, you can hear me out, drug dealers don't have the technology to trace your phone calls on your cell phones. When you see something, drug dealing in these homes that harbor these illegal activities or corners, call with your cell phone. Call 911. I did it for many years. I cleared many corners. We need to know that drug dealers don't have the technology to trace your call. Call them. Call them. It's a community. Thank you, sir.
Right. No, thank you for that, Elias. I think that's a good tip. It's just like, you can do this, you could do it anonymously. It also, I think your council member, Elias's council member, Maria Quinones Sanchez, call her. So remember, your council member is Maria Quinones Sanchez. We think that's probably who it is. 215-686-3448. Call her office. Also, you can call them at 215-686-3449. Call her office, call your council member's office, and ask them to provide public comment. And we're also going to be talking with Philly DA Larry Krasner next Tuesday. We're scheduled to talk with him. We'll be talking about him with Paul. I think he should be doing that. I think all prosecutors throughout the country, and so I applaud DA Krasner for taking that step. Yeah, you should be shutting down voter intimidation like that as a prosecute folks, prosecute them, throw them in jail, throw them in jail, and swallow the key. Seriously, like that should not be taking place. But to Elias's point, I agree with him that message that we need to send a strong, tough message to folks out here who are perpetrating inflicting this violence on our neighborhoods, and that has to come from the top all the way down to the neighborhood level as well. But definitely appreciate that effort. Let me go to Maurice out of Southwest calling in for a reality check. Maurice, what's up?
I want to throw up in my mouth after listening to that city council meeting because they're so misleading. These laws that they want to pass are ridiculous, and they're not going to happen because out here in Southwest Philly, where I live at, in West Philly, there's not one gun shop out here. Not one. You hear me? Not one. So who are they passing this law against? Law-abiding citizens are not out killing people.
Yeah.
They can go right outside this city and get the gun for $200 cheaper. And also, background check, that's another joke. In the city, they charge you $40 for a background check. All I got to do is walk 3 blocks away from my house and pay $8 for a background check at a gun store. This is the nonsense I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You know, they just was fronting up there with all this. They're going to do this, and we're going to have this campaigning. How are you going to have something for kids when we got an epidemic going on here? You can't have a bunch of kids going nowhere in a group. How is that helping anybody? It's just a bunch of nonsense. When I hear them up there giving all...
So, yeah, I agree with you on that part about, like the lawsuit is it's a bit more symbolic, really. I mean, than it is practical in the application. But I think to the point about we got to figure out creative ways, and I agree with you on this point, Maurice. But partly, we do have to figure out, and there are some ways that we can figure out, even with distressed, low-income kids in our community. How do we keep them engaged? Right. And so I think that conversation that we're going to have to figure out, and present creative, innovative ways that we can engage, keep kids engaged, figure out ways to get kids to work. We just talked to a city representative rolling out the urban forest strategic plan. They're going to be planting thousands of trees. Well, they're going to need people. They're going to need young people to plant those trees. That's a way to keep people employed and engaged. That's just one thing, out of many that could be put on the table to keep young people, to keep kids engaged. I think that's where Councilmember Isaiah Thomas is headed with that. It's not about they understand it's a pandemic and we don't want to crowd people up in the same room or the same place, but it is, we do have to figure out how do we keep our communities engaged and employed. Getting resources and investments into them, because that's at the core of this problem. But go ahead, I'm sorry.
Charles, a year ago, the mayor said he had a 100-day plan. How many lives has it cost us when we over 365 days? How many lives has it cost? Women and children are not even safe on the street. Our seniors, the lady was talking about her thing, the one person that did make a statement about how she's scared to walk home. This is our epidemic, and they're not coming up with nothing. You can bring Larry
so I have to ask you, Maurice, let me ask you this. So what would you do?
I gave a plan. I give a plan every time I call. I just don't be hollering. I say you need to have the mobile units out, the bike cops, have cops go around and sign in at the delis, close the delis up early, but nobody wants to do that.
That's good. That's a good part of it. But I'm just saying. But I think it has to be both. It has to be both and. I think what you just offered was great. So that's the police side of things. But once again, we also know that the violence stems from, really, a continually distressed economic situation in Philly and the poverty. And that you have to make investments on that end, and you got to be careful how far you go with those police actions, because then you don't want to create a police state situation. So you want the police to be effective, you want them to be responsive, but how you got to also recognize okay, well, how far do you want that to go? But I agree with you. A better police presence. Go ahead.
Charles, you just got finished saying throw away the key. I know you're not talking to me about that. You just got finished saying throw away the key. So what are you saying? Listen, Charles, if you shut down the drug
I'm just saying it's a both and. It's you can't knock city council members, Maurice, for presenting an idea about about keeping young people engaged and making investments in those communities, because it's an economic problem. That's what we know. It's also an economic problem.
Charles, that's just a small part. I'm not coming down on what he's saying about doing it, but we should have been doing that before it got this bad. Anytime you only have bad business 2.5%, that means you weren't trying. There's a reason why we're the poorest large city in the country, because our city council ain't nothing but trash. That's why. They're not doing their job. If they were all white, we be screaming like hell. But because they black, we give them a pass.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
And we're not voting, and people not voting them out, right? I mean, so you know, if you want to get a more responsive, you got people got to turn out. You want to get a more responsive council. So, but I think you can balance between it. Is what I'm saying, basically. Yeah, I did say throw the key because I think people doing voter intimidation shouldn't be doing that, and people out here perpetrating gun violence. You know, I thought Philadelphia police was effective yesterday in Germantown. Dare I said it. You know, like, don't go around like, you know, in cold blood shooting 19-year-old sisters. In cold, like, come on. So I mean, that's the kind of effectiveness people do want to see from the police department. But you know, obviously, you got to also be sure, like, how you go about that. I got to let you go, Maurice. We got to take a break. I am scheduled to talk with Councilmember Derek Green next at the top of the 12 hour. He is on right now. And phone lines are in case you have a question for him. We're going to talk about the concept of a Philadelphia public bank. A Philadelphia public bank. This is something that Councilmember at large Derek Green has been pressing for quite some time. There is some activity and some advocacy around Philadelphia having its own bank, its own city-controlled, city-owned public bank. It's a fine idea and concept. We're going to talk a bit about that with Councilmember Derek Green. And that is coming up next. We're going to take a quick break, and that's coming up next here on Reality Check, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, WURDradio.com, WURD TV, WURD app. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
I'm Joe Biden, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
But they've got the experience. I'm still in shock 3 or 4 years later that we're in this position now. Our democracy is at a pivotal point. From the top, we don't trust our government. We see the trouble we're in economically. We've got 170,000 Americans dead, and yet this president will do anything he can to make it seem like things are better than they are.
I did more for the black community than anybody with the possible exception of Abraham Lincoln.
It's our responsibility. If we don't lead that effort to make things better, we can't ask other people to do it. There is no good reason not to vote.
Right, we need to have individuals that are in office like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. They are our best shot to take us forward.
And that's what makes me incredibly hopeful, but we really do have to work for this thing.
To the thousands who did not vote, we need you to show up for our future and for our country.
You cannot sit on the sidelines. You got to get in the game.
Paid for by Biden for president.
As a business owner, hiring and developing people from the community that your company serves is one of the best ways to show commitment to that community. Let WURD Radio help with Livelihood, our new initiative that connects Philadelphians with companies like yours. We'll feature your business, open employment opportunities, and resources to connect your company with talent and ensure that you reach your target demographic. To learn more about how Livelihood can help you build your team, visit wordworks.com. That's WURD works.com. Livelihood is supported by the Nightland Fest's Local News Transformation Fund, Borealis Philanthropies Racial Equity and Journalism Fund, and the Solutions Journalism Network. Tune in every Saturday at 6 p.m. to Recovery Talk 101 with your host, Rick Ford, talking about addiction, treatment, and recovery, right here on WURD Radio.
WURD Radio presents the following information to help you navigate the up-and-coming election. Still concerned about COVID-19 and voting in person? Pennsylvania has you covered with mail-in ballots. Simply submit a completed ballot by mail. So long as you request that mail-in ballot between now and October 27th, go to votespa.com and apply for your mail-in ballot today. When your ballot arrives, read it carefully and follow the instructions to complete it and return it. You can also track and confirm that your County Board of Elections has received the mail-in ballot by going to votespa.com. For more information on how to vote in Pennsylvania, visit states.aarp.org/Pennsylvania. Vote early. WURD Radio presents the following information to help you navigate the up-and-coming election. Stay informed and vote. For more from Charles Ellison, tune in Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. or visit wordradio.com.
Home of the Happy Hour. With Sincerely Sarita. This is WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia. Streaming live at WURDradio.com and on the WURD Radio app. Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on WURD Radio and WURDradio.com.
All right, welcome back. We're back at it here on Reality Check. It's Reality Check Thursdays, which coincides with it becomes City Council Live. City Council Live Thursdays. We did have our live session of the Philadelphia City Council as a whole, gavel-to-gavel coverage of that. We do that every Thursday at 10 a.m. sharp. City Council starting, been doing good past few weeks, been pretty much on time and punctual. We like that. We like that here at WRD. We like that at City Council Live. So they did adjourn early, and it gives us an opportunity to talk to members of the council. Oh, real quick, before I go on to our next guest, to Philadelphia City Council member Derek Green, he's at large. I really appreciate a listener Michelle. She is at Child of Hip Hop on Twitter, and she just notified me of a free COVID-19 testing site that is happening today. So Prince, I hope you're listening, and I hope you take this information down. The Black Doctors Consortium has a free COVID-19 testing site opened up today at the Hunting Park Recreation Center at 1101 West Hunting Park. Perhaps that brother can go there rather than anyone having to pony up to $200 to pay for a test. But this is a free test. It's today at 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. at the Hunting Park Recreation Center, 1101 West Hunting Park in Philly. Go to blackdoctorsconsortium.com for more information. But that's a free COVID-19. That's for everyone else out there as well. Once again, go to phila.gov to find information on free testing sites. If you are in the city of Philadelphia, you do not need to pay for a COVID-19 test, and just take that few extra steps to find out where those free COVID-19 testing sites are. So you don't have to, if you're not in a position to pay, that's okay. City of Philadelphia has you covered, and organizations like the Black Doctors Consortium have you covered with free testing, free COVID-19 testing. Thank you, Sister Michelle. I really appreciate you, and thanks for listening in too, and thanks for that that bit of public service there. Really, really appreciate that, and I did retweet that too. Thank you. Joining us now to talk with us about the concept of public banking is Councilmember at Large Derek Green. He's Councilmember at Large. You can go to @Councilman Derek on social media, learn more about him, and he joins us by phone here on Reality Check. Councilmember, how are you doing, sir?
Thank you, Charles. It's a pleasure to be on here with your listeners, and your show, Reality Check, is always good to have conversation and dialogue. It's interesting. Someone last night, I think, got a reality check in that conversation or debate we had. So it's always good to engage in this type of dialogue.
All right. No, I appreciate that. No, we appreciate having you on, too. I'm real curious about, well, real quick, before we go into public bank, just real quick, Councilman, you did give some very passionate comments about violence in the city, and so what's the next direction? What step do you think we need to go in, that City Hall needs to go in to stem the tide of violence?
Well, we're taking a number of different initiatives, throughout the entire summer. The Special Committee on Gun Violence, that's been quarterbacked by Councilmembers Johnson and Jones, have been addressing this issue and bringing various entities together. Since then, we've actually had a gun violence summit where multiple entities at the federal, state, and local level have come together about using resources. And also we're looking at, and one of the things I'm focusing on, is that the most important power we have as a legislative body is the power of the purse, and looking at how we spend dollars and resources on initiatives. So as we go through this fall, and there'll be some type of transfer ordinance by the administration. In addition, we have federal CARES dollars that have to be spent by the end of the year. How are those dollars being spent? Are they being spent on anti-violence initiatives? Are we spending those dollars on grassroots community organizations that are doing the work that we know needs to get done? And then as we go into next year's budget process, really looking at how we're spending resources, and are we spending them as efficiently as we can to address this issue, as well as other issues like how do we grow small businesses and address poverty in our city, which is another issue I've been really focusing on.
Right, and talking about that segues into our bigger conversation here about a public bank. So you've been pushing hard for the city to create some resources, to my understanding, have been dedicated by the city to study the prospect of opening a Philadelphia public bank. So first, when people are hearing that, a public bank, what is that exactly? Is that like a central bank for the city of Philadelphia? Does it operate kind of like how the Federal Reserve operates as the bank for the country? And what model are you basing that off of, Councilmember?
Well, in North Dakota, they have a Bank of North Dakota that's as a publicly owned entity that was created based on a crisis that happened in North Dakota many decades ago, addressing some of the agricultural industry. We have a crisis here in the city of Philadelphia in reference to poverty, and there are different models in Europe on public institutions. So we're looking at a whole range of activities, but also looking at what are the things that will possibly restrict what we can do, both at the state and local level, and really create something that is beneficial for the citizens of the city of Philadelphia. We have a public-private partnership called the Philadelphia Industrial Development Corporation, or PIDC. They are a joint partnership by the city and the Greater Philadelphia Chamber of Commerce, and they have a community development financial institution that provides loans. So creating a city authority is one concept, like the Philadelphia Energy Authority. So we're looking at a couple different models, and that's the next phase coming out of the study that we did and the hearing we had on Monday.
When people, when they hear you describe a public bank, or when they hear us say public bank, I mean, is it also kind of operating like a normal bank? Is it the type of bank, when I say normal bank, like a consumer-based bank, where like regular residents of Philadelphia will be able to open accounts at that bank, will be able to also, as individuals, take loans out of that bank? Because I understand, like, this public banking model looks at like low cost, low credit loans, sort of taking the financial situation of a lot of distressed Philadelphians into consideration if offering that kind of money. Is that how that would work? Or my understanding is no, there won't be any like ATMs. It's not kind of like the classic consumer bank.
Yeah, this would not be the classic consumer bank. And remember, when you're starting an institution like this, you have to start slow. And also you have to identify resources to create an entity. Now, we're going through a global pandemic as well as an economic crisis. The city had a $749 million deficit. So we're looking at what resources we have available from a city perspective to help start a bank. But one of the other issues, and this is something I've pushed on since I've been in council, I started my career as a small business lender with Meridian Bank in North Philadelphia at Broad and Glenwood. But how do we help grow businesses, especially businesses of color, and more particular, African-American-owned businesses? WURD, Lavas Communications, is an African-American-owned business. So many businesses do not get access to credit. There's been recent studies. There has been a recent hearing we just had this week where the Center City District as well as Pew Chattel Trust looked at the challenges that African-American businesses have in the city of Philadelphia. One big aspect to that is access to credit. So can a public bank create enhancements to help small businesses, especially African-American-owned businesses, get loans from traditional banks? Is that being a letter of credit or other type of enhancements to enhance their profile to make it easier for them to get access to lending from traditional banks? And because we have limited resources, how can we take those resources to leverage the opportunity for institutions and small businesses, especially African-American small businesses, to really get access to credit from our traditional banking institutions?
One thing that I think theoretically and just philosophically is a great concept, just a public bank for the city, and a bank that's operating in the city and its residents' best interest. So, but I wonder, okay, particularly when we're talking about businesses like black businesses or businesses of color, black and brown businesses, they operate differently. They also come from different experiences. The ownership is not as solvent. It's not as fiscally sound and healthy as like their white counterparts. Because as you know, Councilman, like when we say black middle class, that's like poverty compared to white middle class, right? In terms of so I wonder, is this type of bank, in trying to support black business development, is it going to operate just like a traditional predominantly white or white managed, white owned bank, or is it really truly going to operate as a public bank and really truly operate giving consideration to the various challenges that not only black businesses but black individuals have to go through? Because there's a credit crisis within the black community. I know your colleague, Majority Leader Councilwoman Sherelle Parker, she recently introduced legislation about employers credit checking residents, and so putting a stop to that, because that's a big crisis in the black community, even though we don't talk about it like we need to. So is that is that keeping that in mind? If we're going to start this public bank, are we also going to kind of ease up on the types of demands and criteria needed to secure those types of assets? Because even though they might be slipping in the credit, and they're going to need some help with that to raise their credit score, their credit rating, they still need that loan, and they do have the means to pay that back, and they will pay that back.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, that's been my focus. I mean, I remember from my experiences as a small business lender, there were loans that I did under my lending authority at Broad and Glenwood that other lenders may have not done, but because I knew the business owner, I knew the type of deposits they had in their account. And, you know, for the most part, our communities, and I would say our African American communities, tend to be more a cash-based community. So I knew the cash flow that these business owners had in their account. They may have not had the same credit profile, but they've been in business for a period of time and had the access and the ability to pay back. But because I had that background, was often not the case in some of our traditional lending institutions. You don't have as many lenders of color. In fact, one of the reasons why I left banking is because they started to implement credit scores. And so I had a loan portfolio based on my experience and the training I received by going to lending school. I could give a loan out based on my loan portfolio and my lending authority. They moved to a credit scoring model, and so you had to get a certain credit score in order to get certain loans. So what we're trying to do is provide, through this public bank, some enhancements. So if you have a business that's been operating for a number of years that may have not had the family, friends, and connections to help collateralize that business, is someone that was maybe providing a good or service and now said, no, I'm going to be in the business of providing a good or service. But they may have not had an uncle or a neighbor or a family friend that said, here's X amount of dollars to help you get started. So they kind of bootstrapped their business, got it up and running, and have been successful and been able to pay their bills and grow their business, but can't get to that next level. And so how do we create an entity like a public bank that can provide those type of benefits and services to make that business owner more attractive to a traditional lending institution? And so that's the way we can try to leverage some public dollars to help more businesses, especially black businesses, get access to the credit markets, especially in this current time period when mainstream corporations are now marketing how they support Black Lives Matter, which is a few years ago that was not the case. So that's also a part of this perspective, and that's been my focus on how we can leverage public dollars, which is we as African Americans and other people of color are the majority of the city, but we don't have the majority of the equity and the wealth in the city of Philadelphia, although we have a 44% percentage in reference to the people that live in the city.
I guess there's a lot of questions kind of floating out there about this public bank, Councilman, and a couple of them that come to mind for me. One, if you're going to start a public bank in Philadelphia, you're going to need a charter. You're going to have to get an approved charter from the state, from the Commonwealth, right? So that's one challenge because and already Philadelphia has this contentious relationship with Harrisburg, with the Commonwealth, on a number of other issues. And then where do you get the money from? Where's the money come from to the seed capital to start this public bank?
Well, part of the reason why we brought in a consultant, the consulting group we brought in was called HRNA, and they testified on Monday, and they testified for the feasibility, and they did a feasibility study for a public bank, and they laid out some of their perspectives that could be some challenges, but they're also not attorneys, and they relied on some legal advice from the law department. We have since talked with the law department, and they're doing some internal analysis as well as possibly reaching out to get some external legal support. If we would go a traditional route of trying to get a bank charter within the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, that would be one approach. Or we could do the approach of creating a municipal authority that can do lending, which is similar to the PIDC Community Development Financial Institution approach, and also providing other type of products. So we're taking some time to kind of research what's the best methodology. We've already done some research through the HRNA feasibility study. We've had some research done for us by the Fell School of Government at the University of Pennsylvania. There's been other cities around the nation who are also looking at public banking.
Right.
In fact, just next to us in New Jersey, when Phil Murphy was running for governor of the state of New Jersey, one of his campaign platforms was to create a public bank in the state of New Jersey. And Phil Murphy is a retired banker from Goldman Sachs. So this is an idea that's growing in momentum.
I think I don't know if
it's going to change things.
Right. I don't know if you realize, I think in Lancaster, they have a bank of bird in hand. And so the Commonwealth approved their charter, to my understanding, Lancaster, PA. So they have about like nearly $400 million in assets. It might be a little bit more because the little bit of research I did, that was like in 2018. So have you talked to folks like in Lancaster, your neighbors over there, and just said, hey, how did you guys get that charter? How are you guys operating? Since it's in the state, it's it's a smaller city, but it's a neighbor.
It is, and I do know the mayor of that city, so that is another area of research that we'll look into. That's not something that HRNA research. They looked at a more macro level of, is it feasible to do a public bank in the city of Philadelphia? The answer was yes, using that small business loan model, looking at authority. But we don't want this to be, we want it to be as broad as possible, but also not put ourselves in a situation where we're dealing with a lot of state preemption and other issues. That's why we're taking the time to research it, as opposed to just go out there and create something and have some challenges.
Hey, nothing to Councilman, a public bank like this, you're really trying to make it relevant to the community, particularly the black community in Philadelphia. You want to make it resonant. You want to make people understand that, hey, something like this is essential for economic growth within the community. We can, so we can do long-term wealth generation. But I wonder about the financial literacy part. So like, have you been thinking intently about that, about, okay, well, hey, if we do a public bank or like a municipal authority, like you said, do we align this with Philadelphia Public Schools, for example, and create some kind of like mandatory financial literacy program for all students, all young people in the city of Philadelphia? So like when they go to this public bank as maybe small businesses or people looking to create a business, is there like an educational training component that would come with something like this?
We've been focusing primarily on the services that will be delivered, like in the lending and access to credit. But you raised great ideas. As an institution is created, having the ability to educate. I mean, many of us, for me, my first contact with banking was getting a PSFS savings book.
Right.
And I remember my mom and dad, when they go to the bank, they would go to the drive-in, they put a little lollipop, and you get the lollipop, and if you had a little, savings account, they would make a deposit in the account in your deposit book.
That's right.
So that's something, and that stuff actually happened in school as well. So I think it's a great point. I know there's been members of council who have been, myself included, pushing for the idea of financial literacy in our schools, especially our school district, because this is how we provide access and exposure to young people, and that's what's so often lacking in our city, in our communities, is the exposure to an entrepreneur or a bank account or other things. And that's doing that at a young age puts someone on the path to say, you know what, I want to be a business owner, or I do want to work in a bank, or I want to take other type of opportunities and avenues. But it's exposing them, and I think your idea of technical assistance within a public bank and also parting on an education perspective makes a lot of sense.
How do we protect something like this? Because when you hear the term bank, right? We think about Wall Street. We think about how Wall Street rife with all sorts of mismanagement and corruption. We look at the Great Recession, the financial crisis, and so it's Philadelphia. People are going to say, hey, you guys want to create a bank, and like, what about like the potential of corruption? How do we protect this bank from corruption? How do we keep it accountable to the residents? How do we keep it accountable to governing bodies like yours, the city council?
Well, any type of public institution, you're going to have transparency and independence. And so when you look at entities like, and I mentioned this earlier, the Philadelphia Industrial Development Corporation, which is a joint venture between the Chamber of Commerce and the City of Philadelphia, where the city has appointees and the Chamber has appointees, as we're putting together the enabling legislation for this type of entity, there's certain requirements they would have, just like other city boards and agencies where you have to have people with certain types of background experience, X number of years in banking as a lender, or maybe at a CDFI or other type of institution. Having hearings and having information that's got to be provided to the public on an annual or regular basis to provide that type of transparency. So those are the things we'll look at. Also, making sure it has a level of independence. Now, I was very active when we redid the ethics board back in 2006 during the street administration going into another administration. So making sure it's got that level of independence, transparency, and information, because we are using city deposits or city resources to help grow city businesses. And, we do that all the time. When I, as a city employee, my money's in the pension fund. Our pension fund makes investments in various type of financial products from around the world. I don't necessarily know all of those minute details, but the pension board has a responsibility to do such in a way to benefit the employees and retirees of the city. We should also be looking at how we use our city resources to grow businesses, especially African-American owned businesses in our city.
Yeah, we've been talking with Council Member at Large Derek Green. Go to phlcouncil.com/Derek Green. There was a lot of other questions we have, obviously, Councilman, regarding this public bank idea and concept. So I definitely want to continue the conversation with you at some point. I know there's a Philadelphia Public Bank Coalition that I know you're working with, the whole advocacy grassroots coalition that's pushing a consortium of different neighborhood, community, civic organizations in the city that are pushing for this. So we'll definitely have that opportunity. Again, we ran out of time, but really appreciate your time this morning.
No problem. Thank you for the opportunity, and I always love being on Reality Check with you and your listeners.
All right. Thank you. No, we always enjoy to hear you too. All right. Thanks again. Take care. Let's take a break. We're going to go back to open phone lines, 215-634-80. Oh, no, there's no break. There's no break. Excuse me. We are keeping the phone lines open at 215-634-8065, toll free 866-361-0900. 215-634-8065, toll free. It is 866-361-0900. Phone lines are open. Tell us what you think about that Philadelphia Public Bank idea too. As you just heard, we were just talking with one of the if there is a Philadelphia Public Bank, one of its founders would be Councilmember Derek Green, because he's been working very hard on this issue and pushing it in City Hall for quite some time. Let me go to Woody out of Winfield, who's calling in for a reality check. Woody, how you doing, sir?
Hey, Charles, how are you?
How are you doing? All right.
I waited through because I thought I was going to be able to talk with the council person.
I didn't realize that. Okay.
Yeah,
okay, I'm sorry about that.
You had said you were going to open the lines for questions, and that's the reason I hung on.
My apologies for that. I didn't realize that. Okay.
Well, that's okay. I won't give you the key to swallow. Don't worry about that. I won't throw it away. But, Charles, you've been a bad boy at times, so I'm going to make sure that you keep in mind your grandmother. I always like to be the voice behind that.
I appreciate that.
To let you know that this issue of education and literacy continues to be the push that got you where you are through your grandmom, for sure. Why did that become something that is the last on the list as it relates to this whole banking thing? If this is Philadelphia banking, what about the Philadelphia educational structure, which produces the people that will use the banks? Or is it gentrification? Too little, too late. The majority of the people will be gone from, the blacks will be gone out of the inner cities, and the new people who are coming in who did learn so that they could earn, to be able to use the banks properly because they have the proper education. So the circle continues to go around. And when you talk about gun violence, all this is tied in. When you talk about the issue of people being poor, we're the poorest city in the entire country, all that's tied in, you see, to making this same thing, the same system work the way that it works. And the system has always been to use those who don't know. You see what I'm saying? So you use them, and once the more ignorant you keep people, the more you can use them. So we have to deal with this issue of education. I was very proud to see the young lady Kamala Harris yesterday, and how she worked things out, and how Pence had to talk over the point. And she kept it going. That's why I'm saying to you, education helps.
You know, interestingly enough, you mentioned that yesterday's vice presidential debate. Now, one of the things I wasn't too pleased about, speaking of education, no discussion on that. No discussion on K through 12 education. Once again, they did that last week.
But you have her as an immigrant. You see, her parents immigrant versus people who are the children of the former chattel slaves. Until you get that direction and understand that we have to be represented and that we have to be identified, we will still be calling ourselves African Americans. I keep telling you, African American comes over freely with a good 1 to 12th grade education from his country. Then he takes advantage of the colleges. Not just one immigrant, but all the immigrants do the same. Look at your college campuses. It's showing you what the future is going to look like. Look at your inner cities. It's showing you that the future won't be a black Philadelphia. So those banks are probably going to be used, and they're going to come up real clean to help the residents. But if
I was just saying that
you can't pay it, you can't.
Yeah, I hear where you're coming from on that. I was just saying that it incenses me that like neither one of these campaigns during the debates are bringing up the overall.
They're not going to do it, Charles. You have to keep the children of the former chattel slaves ignorant. That's why 400 years you were not allowed to pick up the ball. So I don't want to go around in a circle because I get dizzy, man. It makes my stomach hurt. So I'm going to get off here and let you go back, and I know you have more callers, but we got to stick to this issue. That office for non-immigrants, children of former chattel slaves living in America needs to be there because the LGBT have their office, all immigrants have their offices in City Hall, and the only way you're going to be accepted as being serious about it is for us to have that office. There's no reason for that office.
But you know what? I would say this. So just to hold you for another minute here, Woody, on that point. As it relates to black people in the United States, black Americans, I think we need to start teaming up more deliberately with black people from the Caribbean, from Africa.
That's what the office is
for. So I think that office should be like that, because they're coming from different. And I had this conversation with a friend of mine, a brother from Jamaica, who we were having. I had to remind him, like, hey, listen, we took it on the chin so y'all could come up here, and two, but that said, we could be like unified. Yeah, you have to understand, you guys are coming from like majority black countries. You're poor countries, but you're majority black countries, so y'all don't have to deal with the nonsense we had to deal with here growing up with these white people that are constantly targeting us.
Plus, Charles, they're white supremacists in their ideology as it relates to education.
That's right.
Keep that in mind.
That's right.
So that's all I'm saying to you. This is why that office is so important, and every college kid would be coming there to learn because they're ignorant about our problem. Remember that old song? Nobody knows the trouble I've seen. Nobody knows our sorrow.
That's right.
All right, brother.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you, Mr. Woody. All right, out of Winfield. Let me go to phone lines once again are open. 215-634-8065. They're open for the remainder of this Thursday edition of Reality Check, City Council Live. 215-634-8065. Toll free 866-361-0900. Let's go to John out of West Oak Lane, who's calling in for a reality check. John, how are you doing?
Yeah, good afternoon. Yes, I'm calling. I'm sorry I missed your guest. But why do we need another black bank in Philadelphia? We got the United Bank. They are making loans to small businesses. The biggest problem is black people don't support the black bank. So that's what he should be advocating, support for the United Bank. The city also deposits money in the United Bank. And one of the other major banks deposits money in the United Bank. So if we all get behind United Bank, we will have exactly what he's talking about.
I think he would, and that's a very good question, John. So let me take a stab at it right now. I think that.
Well, one other thing before you do.
Also, go ahead.
Any citizen of Philadelphia can buy stock in United Bank, so that makes it as public as it could be. Okay, go ahead.
Oh no, that's a very good point. He probably would say, and folks who are pushing for the public bank would say, you would want a public bank or some sort of municipal authority, because remember he said it could go either one or two ways. It could be either a charter approved, the Commonwealth approves a charter for the city to have a public bank, or the city could just say, hey, we're going to create a municipal authority and it's going to operate as a bank. But you want to protect it from Wall Street. You want to protect it from the conventional consumer-based free market financial services sector. So when you have a public bank, it stays protected from that sector in ways that, say, United Bank is not protected, because it's a public bank, right? But or it can be public. It has it's like a public shareholder bank, but it's not like, but it's still a commercial bank at the end of the day. It's still going to be subject to the vicissitudes of, or the shifts and trends of what's happening in the overall financial services sector. So that from what I know about, from what I've studied with respect to this concept or this idea, that's why they're saying, hey, let's move forward with the public bank. But to your point, yeah, I mean, there's a black bank that's operating in the city of Philadelphia, and more people should support it, and that bank should be more responsive to those kinds of conversations in the community. So make it more known. I don't think a lot of people realize that there is that black in Philadelphia. You'd be surprised, right? But we know there's folks out there don't realize it's a black bank in Philadelphia, and that they could go to. And so I think that there has to be, based on my knowledge of that bank, they could make a little bit more effort in terms of the communications piece, in terms of letting people know, saying, okay, well, how do we make this more resonant and more feasible for the community, more accessible? I go back to the brother in Portland who we had on this show a month ago, Black Resilience Fund. And that's the kind of stuff, the kind of bold, ambitious stuff that's needed in the community. He just one day, he woke up and he said, you know what, forget this. I'm going to create a fund, a pot of money. And within a month, he raised $1.5 million. It's probably more now, for just exclusively black people in the city of Portland, cutting them checks, no questions asked, didn't have to go through a whole bunch of paperwork, a whole bunch of criteria. He's like, you know what, you black, you in Portland, I know y'all going through struggles. I know you got no job, you need to pay rent, you need food, you need to put food on the table. I got you covered. We need bold, ambitious moves like that in Philadelphia. That's the kind, I'm not seeing that yet. So like, public bank, great. United Bank, great. But I want to see some kind of Black Resilience Fund, kind of like big mass rapid response effort, or economic Marshall Plan. That's what a Marshall Plan, like what the Allies did to save Europe after World War II. They did a Marshall Plan. That's what Philly needs. Black Philly more specifically needs that. I do not see that happening yet. I don't see anyone, I don't even see anyone talking on that kind of level or talking that kind of ambitiously, other than myself, trying to push it and promote it. I'm like, yo, you got the dude in Portland, like, call him, get him as a consultant or something, and have him set it up in Philly. So, it would be nice if a bank like United would do something like that. That's all I'm saying. Are you still there, John?
Yes, I'm still there. And of course, the only reason we don't United Bank is not because it's not being supported by the black community.
Yeah, that needs to happen, right? That needs to happen. Well, and they have to do a better job at the communications part.
Well, that comes based on size. They got to have money.
Yeah.
Got to have profits.
There's
they
hey,
don't have
you know what?
Profits, they can't advertise.
Hey, listen. There's a whole lot of ways now. People don't need multi-million-dollar budgets like they did in the past now, especially with digital and social media. There's a whole lot of creative ways to go about that, to really get that word out and to say, hey, y'all, this is your bank. You know what I mean? There's a whole lot of creative ways. I mean, I'm seeing businesses now like with $0 in the marketing budget, and it's like, able to, like, overnight through use of social media, get people to notice their product. Right. So it's not like it was back in the 70s and 80s and 90s, where you did need that kind of money to do an aggressive communications campaign. Nowadays, you can be creative, and you don't need a whole lot of budget to do that. So I mean, or to get earned media, or to get, I mean, it's just a number of ways to do it. I'm just telling you, I'm a strategic communications professional and do political communications. I mean, I work with campaigns every now and then, don't have any money. So I'm like, okay, well, what you got? Well, let's be creative here, and let's boost it up. It can be done. So, but to your point, you're right. I mean, we do need to support efforts in our community. We do need to support our businesses. We have to, in order so they can support us. And so I do agree with you, John. Let me let you go, John. Thank you so much, Mr. John. Really appreciate you. Yeah, appreciate that comment, too. I think it's words of wisdom from Mr. John out of West Oak Lane, excuse me. 215-634-8065, toll free 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. 215-634-8065, toll free 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Let me go to Timothy out of South Philly calling in for Reality Check. Timothy?
Yes, Charles, you're a gentleman and a scholar, man. I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate you being a URD, too. I'm telling you, man.
Thank you. Wow, thank you.
I was impressed, man. I had talked about her skill set yesterday, and we got a chance to see Pence's skill set, and she mastered him, man. And I think she did a good job. As far as talking to her, she won the debate. I mean, there was
she did.
That are missing. And listen, you're going to miss some things. You can't, because some things you're going to miss, some things you're not going to cover.
That's right.
And so I'm gonna say that I can see my girl Kamala and also Vice President Biden in office. I mean, and it doesn't look like Trump wants to debate. What is he running from? Or he doesn't want to be virtual. He wants to stand on the stage. He wants to rally. What does he want?
He wanted a situation. I can kind of tell you. I can speculate. This is game theory here, as they call it in my business. He wanted a situation where he could infect other people, including Vice President Biden. That is my speculation there. He didn't get that situation. And so now he's like, well, I want to pull out of it. The latest news now, we've got another announcement where the Biden campaign is coming back and saying, oh, hold up, wait a second now, because we got the third and last debate on October 22nd. You can't just skip out of that town hall format. And the Biden campaign is saying, okay, well, by that time, you should be testing negative, and if we're going to have a debate, well, it shouldn't be a debate. It should be the town hall format that we were supposed to do next week, October 15th. So they're trying to basically say the president cannot just casually or conveniently pull himself out of a person-to-person format, and I agree with that. I think Biden is playing this smartly. And to your point about Senator Harris, she performed beautifully last night. She definitely sharpened it up. Because I was not a fan of her previous debate performances during the Democratic presidential primary. She definitely she sharpened all that up. She got coached or what have you. That was her best debate out of the 2020 presidential campaign season. Full stop on that, hands down. She did a superb job.
Well, I look to see her. Maybe as president, but definitely as vice. So Charles, we have to go out, man. We have to vote. We have to back up what we say we're going to do, and we're going to win. I'm more clear now than I ever was. All we got to do, November 3rd or before that, let's take the town, let's take the country, and let's set it right, man. Because we're in a bind, man. We got to come back economically, socially, politically, educationally, and everything. So talk to you soon. Good job.
Talk to you soon. Thank you, Timothy. I appreciate that assessment. I appreciate that analysis yesterday. You called it. You was like, she's going to handle it. She's going to handle her business, and she did. She handled it. Pence was formidable, and but it's like he's like bold-faced lying. I mean, he's acting as if the rest of us don't watch the news. It's like, no, we do, fam. And so, and the Fly, the hero of the debate, the Fly, let us know. Or basically let him know that he smelled like it, that he smelled like the, what I'm talking about, that he was trying to serve us last night. And, the Fly was key proof of that. So, I think it was, I did enjoy the debate. It was a very substantive debate. In fact, I didn't live tweet last night during the debate as I normally do, because I was like, I want to pay attention to this one. I don't want to miss anything, because sometimes you could be multitasking and live tweeting and you might miss something. It's like when I watch movies, my wife will tell you, like, hey, wait a second, I want to hear all the dialogue. I want to hear the whole script. Like, don't bother Charles while he's watching a movie, especially if it's I like heady movies. Like, I like movies, make you think. And and I like a lot of foreign films. Like, I like to read the subtitles, but so I didn't live tweet. Really, I started tweeting out thoughts earlier this morning, but overall it was a solid, healthy debate, because then we got to see a clear picture of what each campaign was offering or what each campaign was proposing as far as key policy areas. And even Pence did that. I didn't agree with things Pence was saying, but I'm like, okay, you know what? He's delivering his lies calmly and professionally. I got to give him that, right? And he did so. And and Senator Harris, we'll talk a little bit about that. I'm just going to make sure people understand the phone lines are open. I'm going to give you some of my analysis on this right now, but 215-634-8065. Feel free to cut me off with a phone call if you like. 215-634-8065, toll free 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. But key points on this debate last night. There was some missed opportunity moments from Senator Harris. I think she missed a few good moments there. One, no mention of K through 12 education. I don't know what's going on with households are in crisis. There are a lot of kids who are getting left behind right now as we speak. Can't sign up and do remote virtual classrooms every day, and no one's saying anything about it. Like I don't get that. I don't get that. So I mean that was a missed opportunity point. Two, there was a moment where Vice President Pence said, he was talking about some Democrats out there, in the Senate especially, proposing to increase the number of Supreme Court justices in the event that Biden wins and Democrats retake the Senate. And that's a fairly easy lift. So you currently have 9 justices in the Supreme Court. There has been a proposal floated out there to have a new Senate along with the Democratic White House, add 2 or 3 more seats to balance things out ideologically on the court. And, so that would immediately give Joe Biden the opportunity to fill 2 or 3 empty Supreme Court justice seats. So Vice President Pence, Republicans are calling that as stacking the courts, right? And so he said, that's, he was, faking incredulity on that. And he was like, that's just like, you're in the middle, something to the effect of, you're in the middle of the game, or you lose the game, and then because you lose the game you change the rules, or something to that effect, where he was saying like how they changed the rules. Let me I'll be able to find that, because I think it's important not to just get the gist of that, but to get the full quote. And it was he said, quote, "This is a classic case of if you can't win by the rules, you're going to change the rules." This is a quote from Mike Pence. At that exact moment, Kamala Harris should have eviscerated him. She should have been like, "Oh, okay, well then you then denounce voter suppression. Then you denounce your colleagues in multiple states imposing or inflicting voter suppression on millions of innocent voters. You yourself, since we want to talk about changing the rules of the game, you yourself as governor of Indiana back in 2016 commanded Indiana State Police raid the offices of a major black voter registration effort in Indianapolis. So, since we're going to talk about changing the rules, how dare you? She should have opened up on him at that, like really just like totally obliterated him on that, because no Republican on this planet at this moment has any right to talk about changing the rules of any games. No Republican, whether it's Vice President Mike Pence or the Republican on the corner. I don't care who you are. Like y'all are just straight faced, just and so many. There's so many words I can't say right now because it infuriates me. Y'all are just cheating, straight cheating. And then you want to talk about changing the rules of a game? Like, really? Are you serious? And when he said that, I went apoplectic at that TV. And so she should have just shut him down. Now, one of the things I did love about what Kamala Harris did last night, she kept saying Affordable Care Act. She was like she was like a drummer. Affordable Care Act, Affordable Care Act. I love that. I was falling in love with Kamala Harris. You tell my wife, I was like, yo, Kamala is looking good tonight. I love how she's doing that because it's a big pet peeve of mine. Affordable Care Act, Affordable Care. Not one time during that debate did she ever use the slander Obamacare, because people need to be schooled on that. Stop saying Obamacare. It is a slander. The polling data is solid on this. There are white people out there voting Republican who literally believe the Affordable Care Act and Obamacare are two separate things. I know it sounds unbelievable, but there is polling data that's been taken over the past several years that shows this. And I've been warning people about this. Kamala must have heard me. She never said Obamacare once. And she did that deliberately because she saw that same data. And she's like, you know what? This is the law. And she even said it to the American people. She's like, they're coming for you. I love that moment. She's like, they're coming for you. They're coming for you. They are going to take your affordable health care away. They're going to take your affordable care. I mean, she was so good with it. She even had the moderator, Susan Page. Even Susan Page didn't say Obamacare. She just said Affordable Care Act. Yeah. So, Senator, tell us about the Affordable Care Act. Vice President, what are you guys trying to take Affordable Care Act away? I love that. I love that. It was masterful the way she did that, because Pence, you notice he would say Obamacare. That's what and I hated the fact that years ago, President Obama embraced that term. Like, dude, they're gaslighting you. Cut it out. Like, Affordable Care Act. But anyway, that's Republican messaging experts, Republican strategists created that term Obamacare as a slander. So when you're going around calling it Obamacare, you're actually slandering not only the president, your beloved President Obama, you're slandering that law, and you're adding more fuel to the political mythology around this law that that Republicans are trying to say is not working. When it has elements of it's not perfect, but elements of it have worked, and it's something that's needed. Stick with, I'm telling you folks, stick with Affordable Care Act. Sister Murray out of Northern Liberties is calling in for a reality check. Sister Murray? Can you hear me, Sister Murray?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. How you doing?
I'm doing great.
Yeah.
I just want to commend Kamala Harris. I mean, she took that. She did a great job. She stayed calm. She stayed focused.
She did.
And I watched Mike Pence. I mean, he was really, I mean, you could just see him. You know he's white, so you know a white person, when you're getting up underneath of their skin, they turn bloody red. But he kept it calm. He kept it calm.
Let me tell you, I've met Pence when he was a congressman. When he was a congressman, I had to interview him a couple of times. I've met him. He's actually, I don't like his politics. He's a cool dude. I mean, he's a cool customer, and he's been around black folks, so he knows how to be. And he's a very polite man. I will say, very polite. He's very respectful. I can't stand his politics, and I mean, he's dangerous politically. But I will say, being around him, he's very respectful, very nice, very polite, and so that's part of it. That's part of it. Last night, he's like, oh my gosh, like he can't help himself being so polite, and he knows I got this black woman here. If I go too strong on her, how am I going to look? That's how he is. Yeah.
Right, but Charles, also I want to touch bases on the other day you were talking about Commissioner Outlaw, and Commissioner Ross, when he was in office, it was hot out there. He was in a ball of fire. I mean, you watched him every single night running from one crime scene to the next scene to the next scene. So Commissioner Outlaw, we got to give her a chance. She did not get where she's at by her looks. She got where she's at because she was qualified. She earned all those stars. And, so I hear everybody talking about her, trying to break her down, but we have to lift her up because she needs us to back her up.
Yeah, she really does.
We just got to stay in there with her and don't put her down. Just hang in there with her, give her all the encouragement that she needs because she didn't create this. And this all was already in place. She's trying to figure out how to get this thing together, but she can do it with all of us. And also, Charles, when they had that first started all of the tearing up stuff and all of this, what they were doing in Kensington, and I never forgot this, and nobody hasn't even still talked about it. I know, Commissioner, at one point when it happened, all of those tanks that had gotten stolen, the gas tanks, down in Kensington, and, they were like, hey, they're dangerous. They're out there. Now we need to find out where they are, but they still haven't gotten to where they are. Like, where are they? Because they're still out there. Like, they haven't caught the people who took those tanks. You know what I mean? And they are dangerous. So we need to find out where they are. And, Charles, also before I go, our kids are suffering, right, illiteracy, and the parents at home, they're suffering because, I come from a large family, and it's hard when your finances aren't in order and you got all these kids looking at you. Sometimes you can't buy them a book, you know what I mean? Because you're too busy trying to feed them. And so we got to all try to do the best we can, help a kid, read with a kid. I always mention Woody, and Woody is a thorough brother. him and his brothers, barbershop, and he's always putting it out there. His compassion for kids and reading and stuff, and trying to do the best that he can. And you know, I'm a Black author, and I would like to. I don't know if Woody is listening, but if he is listening, I would like to donate some books to his shop. So when kids are there, I would like for him to give each one of those kids a book, so that they can sit there and read with their parents or at the barbershop while he's doing their hair. And so I would like to have some books donated. My book is on Barnes & Noble, and it's called, it's a children's career book, and it's called Picture Yourself. And the author is Terry Murray. But I'm going to have some books delivered to Woody's Barbershop. And because I'm a big fan of kids. I love kids. Ever since I was 14, I work with children. I work with adults and nursing homes. And I'm all about education and teaching kids because I love kids. And I can't see how people want to hurt kids or do bad things for kids, but we have to teach them. They're not stupid. They're smart. They just need somebody to take the time. But, Charles, thank you for everything. You have a blessed day, and I want to help wherever way I can help. And I think I can help by giving a child a book. Okay?
That's right.
So thank
That's
you,
right.
Charles, for everything. All right? You have a blessed day.
Murray.
And keep doing what you're doing, Charles, because you're beautiful. And everyone at WRD is beautiful. And continue to buy your membership. We're going to support this radio station forever. Keep doing what you're doing. God bless you.
That's right. All right. No, God bless you as well. No, I appreciate you, Sister Murray out of Northern Liberties. I hear you on that, and to what you were saying just now, and to what Mr. Woody was saying earlier. That's one of those big ideas. You know, one of those low-hanging fruit ideas. If you want to start stemming the tide of, if you want to eliminate the gun violence in Philadelphia, just a massive literacy Marshall Plan. You know, over a quarter of adults in Philadelphia are illiterate. We're not making any noise about that, Philadelphia. It's been like that for a very long time. I remember as a teen, I was a part of I was a part of, like, my local church on my block was doing a literacy program, was part of the city's literacy effort, and so they picked me as a tutor to help teach an adult, or teach an adult how to read. So I didn't know how old that adult would be. I was thinking, okay, it'd be someone in their 20s maybe, or maybe 30s. And it was this very elderly gentleman at the time. I didn't keep in touch with him, so he was very elderly. He was way up there in age. Did not know how to read, and so it was up to me to teach him how to read. And it was tough. It's tough. And he wasn't the only one. And it was like that back then, and it still is like that now. It's a big crisis. That's an epidemic in Philly, and you know, the more you engage young people and just the overall population in Philly to read, it opens up new worlds, it opens up new ideas, new visions. It keeps people's minds engaged. It keeps them it keeps them out of doing things they shouldn't be doing in the first place. And people don't understand that. It's just so important. And they think, you know, it's once again, it goes back to, you know, how you in, people know what I'm talking about here. You know, you're in certain jobs, you're in certain organizations or companies, and they're like, oh, you know, and you do your job well. You're efficient. You, you know, you mark off all the boxes. You get your stuff done by the end of the day. But, you know, your office is clean, or your cubicle is clean, your desk is clean. Everybody, but everything's so clean, and you're so efficient. You're not running around like a chicken with your head cut off. But the boss and your coworkers, they hateful, and they're like, oh, he or she must not be working. You know, because it's like, you know, they want to see you being like just chaotic. It has to be hard. You know, as the saying goes, work smart rather than work hard. And you can work smart versus working hard. You know, you want to work smart so you get stuff done. But see, and people, it's just unbelievable to a lot of people. They can't conceive that sometimes a lot of these solutions are simple. They're accessible. They are conceivable. They're low-hanging fruit, as that term I like to use all the time. But but because it's not complicated, people are like, they dismiss it like outright, like, oh, they can't. And so I think that's the problem here, which you have with issues like literacy. And when Mr. Woody keeps, you know, beating that drum, which I encourage him to do that, because people are like, oh, it can't just be, you know, that's too good to be true. Literacy, people reading, that's it. Like, yeah, it's that simple. Like, it saves people's lives. All right, let me wrap this Thursday edition of Reality Check. We're headed into the source with Andrea Lawful Sanders. That's coming up next, so stay locked into WURD. Want to thank Troy Wilmore as well. I will be back Monday, 10 a.m. sharp. As you know, we're off on. Oh, actually, I'm on tomorrow. I'm going to be guest hosting the source tomorrow from 1 to 4 p.m. tomorrow. So look forward to talking with you then. Tomorrow on the source, I'll be guest hosting, and I'll be on Monday at 10 a.m. sharp. So Philly and beyond, throughout the nation, I want you to stay sharp, stay smart, but more importantly, please stay safe out there. All right, let's head into the source with Andrea Lawful Sanders.